Chapter 1054. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, it was the day of the Alliance Conference. Countless people walked out of Nine-Star City and gathered at the square where the previous matches had taken place. The people from the 9 sects who have obtained the Passage Talisman have already set off for the secret realm of ominous spirits. They should be arriving soon. The real competition is about to begin. I wonder who among the young people in the Chaos Territory will stand at the top. I'm really looking forward to it. The experts of the Alliance will project the situation in the secret realm of ominous spirits. We are in 9-Star City, and we can see the situation in the secret realm. We can only see a part of it, but it's still very powerful. Especially the final match. It will be projected from the beginning to the end. Countless disbanded cultivators and people from the small sects gathered at the place where the previous matches had taken place. At this time, strange stones were arranged on the 10 arenas. They flickered with light and released energy fluctuations. Not only the disbanded cultivators and small sects, but many of the older experts from the top 10 sects had also come to the square. They sat in standalone stands and were ready to watch the upcoming grand competition. The Bawang sect has taken 2 matches and has 40 spots. However, they only have Sui. What a waste. You don't know, right? The 7-Star Sword School and the 6 Union sect took the remaining spots from Sui. Is that so? Then, there are a total of 11 third-rated sects participating in the Alliance Conference this time. Many people were surprised. They felt that the Alliance Conference was really strange and did not proceed according to common sense. The key was that all these strange things were caused by Sui. They could not help but sigh. Only 9 sects had obtained the spots for the preliminary selection. However, 11 third-rated sects could participate in the Alliance Conference, which was unprecedented. The huge square was crowded with people. It was not an exaggeration to say that they were jostling each other. Voila! Suddenly there was a sound. In front of everyone's eyes, the strange stones on the 10 matches emitted a bright light at the same time. Suddenly, the light was projected into the air and formed a magnificent light screen. Look, the projection has begun. Someone shouted and pointed at the scene. Many people raised their heads and were curious about the scene. Only the people from the big sects could use such a method. It would definitely cost a lot. It's about to begin. In the crowd, a middle-aged man in a white robe was standing alone. He just stood there quietly, but it was as if he had formed an independent zone, isolating all the people with ordinary cultivations. Under the influence of this kind of invisible chi, many low-level Origin Emperor Realm experts consciously took a detour and didn't dare to get too close to this middle-aged man. Young Shangwan, do you want to sit on the stage? At this moment, an aged voice sounded. Only the white-robed, middle-aged man heard it. The others didn't notice it at all. No, thank you, senior. Thank you for your kindness. After the middle-aged man heard the voice, he turned his head to look at the viewing platform. He nodded to a red-robed old man and said with a voice transmission. Then, the middle-aged man with the surname Shangwan looked at the light screen above the arena again, waiting for the image to appear. Sigh, this young man is still so stubborn. The old man in a red robe on the stage was Elder Xie of the Green Cloud Hall. He had been here since the beginning of the grand meeting. He was here to watch the battle today. Elder Xie smiled bitterly when he saw that the middle-aged man had rejected him. He then sighed. Humph, that young man doesn't know what's good for him. Not only your Green Cloud Hall, but my Blood Sun sect and 9-Star Valley have also invited him many times to become an elder in our sections. At the very least, he could be a guest elder, but he has rejected us time and time again. Elder Bai of the Blood Sun sect, who was dressed in a green robe, snorted coldly. At the same time, he glanced at the middle-aged man in a white robe in the crowd and said unhappily, Isn't everyone interested in his strength? He does have the ability to stand alone. There is no need for him to rely on our sects. Elder Tang, who was in a black robe, said coldly. He did not seem to care about all this. The middle-aged man was a rogue cultivator, but he was very strong. The 3 sects had always wanted to recruit him. However, over the years, the middle-aged man had rejected the 3 sects many times. To put it bluntly, he was not giving them any face. If one were to look deeper, the middle-aged man did have the right to be proud. This young man, Shangguan, is not simple, the old man in a red robe said softly and did not say anything else. Shangguan was naturally not as strong as the other first-rate sections. However, whether it was the Green Cloud Hall, Nine-Star Valley, or the Blood Sun sect, none of the three sects dared to provoke the middle-aged man. Those who had nothing to lose were not afraid of those who wore shoes. Even the first-rate sects would be wary of a powerful rogue cultivator. It's out. The images are out. Suddenly, there was a commotion in the square. Under the gaze of the densely packed crowd, the stones on the 10 arenas shone brightly and projected into the void. There were 7 colors flowing within them. Then, the light screen above twisted and changed, and images appeared from it. Is that the entrance to the secret realm of ominous spirits? Many people exclaimed. They could see a magnificent scene from the light screen. 2 giant mountains stood tall, like a dragon raising its head, one on the left and one on the right. It looked like it could swallow the world. Between the 2 mountains, there was a smooth cliff. It was so steep that it was difficult for spiritual apes to climb. A white light erupted between the 2 cliffs, and it was painful to look at. Near the mountain peak, hundreds of figures were scattered around. The barbaric beasts they were riding were like young ants in front of the giant mountain peak. Look, that's the Crimson Sun sect. The one in front is Yinshan Yuan. Someone pointed at the dozens of figures on the back of Savage Beast and said, "Wow, that woman must be Shui Yuchan. She's so beautiful." Someone saw the beautiful figure of a woman. Her body was exquisite, and he could not help but exclaim. His eyes were glued to her. Sure Susu from the Green Cloud Hall, the most beautiful woman in the Chaos region. Suddenly, someone exclaimed. It was as if he had seen a ghost. His face was filled with disbelief. Under the gaze of this person, a woman in her 20s stood in the formation of one of the factions. Her dress fluttered in the wind. Her brows were like a painting, and her skin was tender. It would not be an exaggeration to say that she was as beautiful as autumn water. Compared to her, Shui Yuchan from the Purple Shadow Tower paled in comparison. But it was a pity that this woman's face was cold. She had an aura that kept people 1,000 miles away. She was proud and cold. Many people looked at her. While they admired her, they did not dare to have any blasphemous thoughts towards such a cold beauty. The top 10 factions are all here. The factions that passed the primary selection are not here yet. When another group of figures arrived at the mountain peak, many people retracted their thoughts and continued to look at the light screen in the air. The people from the various factions were also recognized by the spectators on the square. The Green Cloud Hall, Nine-Star Valley, Blood Sun Sect, Darkeen Gate, Crimson Sun Sect, J Tripod Clan, Heavenly Dipper Clan, Boundless Palace, Purple Shadow Tower, and Green Flame Sect, the top 10 factions of the Chaos region were all here. They gathered in front of the white light of the 2 mountain peaks. And the factions that qualified for the primary selection 7 days ago had not appeared yet. The secret realm of ominous spirits has opened. You can enter now. At this time, outside the 2 mountain peaks, an elder spoke to the disciples of the top 10 factions. He indicated that they could pass through the white light and enter the secret realm. Shangwanshan, let's go. Let's fight in the secret realm. On the side of the Heavenly Dipper clan, the young master of the Heavenly Dipper clan, Hong Jinxiu, said loudly. He used a sheathed long sword to point at a young man who was sitting on a carriage pulled by 8 red bamboo bear apes. At this time, the curtains around the carriage were rolled up. Many figures could be seen inside. The person in the lead was wearing a tall crown. His hair ribbon fluttered in the wind. He was dressed in a brocade robe with golden embroidery. It made him look extremely majestic. Faced with Hong Jinxiu's provocation, the young man, named Shang Wangchen, glanced at him indifferently. He said indifferently, "You can go in first. I'm very interested in Su Yi from the Bawang sect. I'll enter the secret realm after I see him." Upon hearing the 2 words, Su Yi, Hong Jinxiu's face unconsciously darkened. He snorted coldly and said, "A little Su Yi can make you. Shang Wangchun thinks so highly of him. He'll definitely die in my hands." After saying that, Hong Jianxiu did not waste any time. He turned around and led his 50 disciples into the white light between the two mountain peaks. However, when he passed by the disciples of the top 3 factions, Hong Jianxiu subconsciously felt his heart tighten. So, he'll definitely die in my hands. On the other side, a young man with a gloomy expression said. He did not waste any more time and directly flew into the secret realm. His body was swallowed by the white light. Let's go too. Anyway, after entering the secret realm, we'll be separated. It'll be difficult for us to meet up for a while. A disciple of a faction said, and then entered the secret realm one after another. As these factions began to move, most of the disciples of the top 10 factions also began to move. Many people had strange looks in their eyes. They were curious about Su-yi. However, in the end, not many people decided to stay. Let's go. On the side of the Ash Cloud Palace, Su and a young man led more than 70 disciples toward the secret realm. However, just as her body was about to be completely swallowed by the white light, Su suddenly sensed something and turned around abruptly. In her gaze, the figure of a 16 or 17-year-old boy appeared. He was also looking in her direction at the same time. Chapter 1055. In the next instant, Su's figure was completely swallowed by the dazzling white light and disappeared. In the direction where she had been looking, a Xianyang golden demon falcon flew over quickly. Beside it were a few other powerful savage beasts, and there were many people standing on them. It seems to be that woman. Could it really be her? Su-yi stood on the Xianyang golden demon falcon and raised his eyebrows as he muttered to himself. The woman who had just looked at him gave Su-yi a sense of familiarity. Thinking back, he had come into contact with her a few times in the savage demon forest. Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. I didn't expect her to be from the Chaos region. Looking at the clothes of the people around her, they seemed to be from the Blue Cloud Hall. Su-yi frowned as he muttered to himself. The woman he had just seen was none other than the person who had disguised herself as an old man and sneaked into the Black Fiend's sex mine. When Su-yi was looking for an opportunity to escape, he was tricked by the other party, and there was some enmity between the two sides. Later on, that person was injured and soaked in water. When Su-yi rescued him, he discovered that the other party was a woman. When she woke up, she thought that Su-yi was a perverted thief and sent him flying with a palm strike. Regarding this, Su-yi, who was bound to take revenge, did not kill the woman. Instead, he used a method that was even worse than killing the other party to deal with her. After such a long time, I don't know if she has discovered the truth. Su-yi rubbed his nose as he muttered to himself. If things went wrong, the other party might still think that he had done that to her. However, Su-yi did not feel guilty about this at all. He was already being lenient by not killing his enemy. Moreover, at that time, he was indeed no match for the woman. However, it was different now. Su-yi believed that his strength was definitely above the other party. She came from the Blue Cloud Hall. Could that broken sword also be from the Blue Cloud Hall? If that's the case, it might be a little troublesome. In the end, Su-yi frowned and muttered in his heart. The broken sword was found in the lady's interspatial bag, and it was definitely one of Su-yi's trump cards. If the people of the Blue Cloud Hall wanted him to hand over the broken sword, Su-yi would absolutely not agree. However, the other party was a first-rate force after all, and he could not afford to offend them. We have arrived at the secret realm of ominous spirits. Just as Su-yi was lost in thought, Chen Chu-an's voice rang out, interrupting Su-yi's train of thought. Let's go meet that little girl first. Without further ado, Su-yi stepped into the air with Chen Chuan, Shen Hong, and Yi Haokong and arrived before the two mountains. Let's go too. Behind him, Yuan Xuan, Ji Hana, Lin Donghao, Lin Bingyao, and the rest of the people from Xinjian sect and Liu's sect followed closely behind Su-yi. Is this young man Su-yi? There were still a few people from the top 10 forces who had arrived earlier. Among them, Shang Wangshan from the Boundless Palace looked at the young man who had just arrived with a burning gaze. He immediately determined the young man's identity. Shang Wangchen was very interested in the champion of the Middle States Sacred Martial Art Conference and the person who had recently caused a huge commotion in the Chaos region. After looking at Su Yi, Shang Wangchen's eyes wandered, and no one knew what he was thinking. "Let's go." Immediately after, he led the disciples from the Boundless Palace and plunged into the dazzling light. That was Shang Wangchen from the Boundless Palace. "He's very powerful." Lin Donghao walked to Su Yi's side and said to him, "Let's go in too." Su Yi did not say much. He only nodded and plunged into the dazzling white light with the rest of the disciples. As time passed, the other third-rate forces, such as the Gui Yuan sect, the Fire Dragon sect, and the Ju Tian sect who had qualified for the conference, arrived one after another and entered the secret realm of great spirits. When everyone's body was enveloped by the white light, they all felt as if the sky and earth were spinning. However, in the next moment, the scene in front of them suddenly changed, and they appeared in a brand new area. Secret realm of great spirits. Su Yi appeared at the top of a small mountain. He was surrounded by old forests and ancient trees. Beneath his feet were soft, withered leaves that gave off a rotting smell. However, there were not many weeds or shrubs growing. Chen Chuan, Shun Hong, Yi Haokong, Ji Hanhua, Lin Bingyao, and the others who had entered the secret realm of great spirits with Su Yi were all gone. This was the uniqueness of the white light at the entrance. It could disperse everyone who had entered into the secret realm and randomly distribute them in the outer area of the secret realm. Sizzle, sizzle. Su Yi found a direction and moved forward. His feet stepped on the withered leaves and made a sound. The secret realm of great spirits was a place that had been set up by the experts of the top 10 forces in the Chaos Zone. At this time, it was used to test the young experts of this generation, and there were many benefits in it. However, Su Yi also heard that the secret realm had not been completely explored. There might still be some great opportunities. If they were lucky, those who entered the test would also be able to obtain them. In this Alliance conference, after everyone entered the secret realm of great spirits, besides looking for these benefits, the most important thing was to gather at the center of the secret realm. There was a Nirvana Dragon stage there. 10 people of the younger generation could ascend it and obtain the greatest benefits in the secret realm. The 10 people who succeeded in ascending the stage would be hailed as the 10 most outstanding talents in the Chaos Zone. In another few decades, the changes in the entire Chaos Zone would change according to their will. I have to reach the center of the secret realm within 9 days. Before that, I'd better search for more benefits. Su Yi muttered to himself as he moved quickly in the forest. He had no idea where he was and how far he was from the center. Therefore, the most important thing now was to find some clues to prevent himself from running around like a headless fly. In addition, Su Yi did not plan to give up on some spiritual herbs and such. At this time, not only Su Yi, but the 3 first-rate forces, 7 second-rate forces, and 10 third-rate forces added up to about 800 people, were scattered in various places in the secret realm. With such a large area, the possibility of 2 people meeting at the same place was not small. However, as they moved, they would gradually gather together. They have entered the secret realm of great spirits. What we can see will be very limited. In the square of 9-Star City, many people gathered together and watched as the light screen above the 10 arenas dimmed. The secret realm of great spirits was very big. No matter how rich the top 10 forces were, they could not set up means to project the scene in every place. However, they had already prepared for some key places. Once someone passed by, it would trigger the reaction there. The square would also see the movement there in real time. Swoosh! Suddenly, the dim light screen trembled, and a figure appeared on it. Beside the figure was a small pool, emitting an icy cold mist. Wow! It's Blue Cloud Palace's Shir Susu. So beautiful. She triggered the means set up by the strong. There must be some treasure nearby. Most likely, it should be in that pool. The crowd in the square that was silent suddenly burst into a burst of exclamations. The beautiful figure that appeared was too attractive, but her beautiful face was cold and elegant, and at the same time, it was difficult for people to have any evil thoughts. The person who appeared was none other than the disciple of the first-rate force, Blue Cloud Palace, Susu. She was projected to the square at this time, indicating that there was definitely a treasure nearby. The possibility of it being hidden in the pool next to it was very high. Everyone was looking forward to it, very much wanting to know what Susu would get in the end. Sure enough, under the gaze of many pairs of eyes, the exquisite figure directly stepped into the void, and arrived above the small pool. Origin Void Realm. Such a scene immediately caused a commotion in the square. At this time, Susu was not standing in the air using the Yuan Qi transformation method. Instead, she was actually floating in the air. This could only be done by an Origin Void Realm expert. I didn't expect that among the younger generation of a first-rate force, there would really be someone who had stepped into the Origin Void Realm. That Susu is only a little over 20 years old. To be able to reach such a level, it's too unbelievable. Someone exclaimed in shock, marveling at the woman that appeared on the light screen. According to what I know, Susu has not reached the Origin Void Realm in a day or two. I estimate that she had successfully stepped into that step a year ago. Someone at the side took over the conversation and said something that was even more shocking. She's about to make a move. At this moment, everyone saw that there were waves of Yuan Qi that began to spread out from Susu's body. It turned into a hurricane that swept and danced in the air above the pool. Under the influence of this power, a huge inverted whirlpool appeared in the clear jade pool and actually moved towards the sky. Swoosh! Following that, under a flash of light, a long black shadow suddenly jumped out from the pool, somewhat catching everyone off guard. Frost Demonic Dragon, Demonic Void Realm. There was another long exclamation in the square. Everyone was shocked. The black shadow that appeared was the body of a huge dragon. Its entire body was snow white, as if it was made of ice, and it released a terrifying aura. Even if they only saw it on the light screen, many people could not help but shiver, as if their bodies were about to be frozen stiff. Through the means of an expert, they could see the scene, but they could not hear the sound at the scene. However, everyone saw the Frost Demonic Flood Dragon open its huge mouth and let out a ferocious roar. Swoosh, swoosh. Following that, Susu did not waste any time. A long sword appeared in her hand, and she quickly engaged in a battle with the Frost Demonic Dragon. Suddenly, waves of terrifying energy exploded. The Frost Demonic Dragon spat out icy light pillars from time to time, madly attacking. Chapter 1056. Susu is so strong. In the square, many of the onlookers were extremely shocked. That woman's strength was obviously extremely powerful. With the strength of the Origin Void stage, she was able to fight against the Frost Demonic Dragon. As time passed, she even gained the upper hand. Sword light and wind blades swept out, occasionally brushing against the Frost Demonic Dragon's body, causing it to writhe in pain again and again. The Flood Dragon opened its mouth wide and let out a painful roar again and again, accompanied by terrifying icy light pillars. However, the Frost Demonic Dragon's attacks became more and more chaotic. It was difficult to hit the swift Susu, and the injuries on its body became more and more serious. In the end, it twisted its body and dove back into the pool, not daring to fight again. What terrifying strength! She is an absolute powerhouse among the younger generation. She is indeed the #1 person among the younger generation of the Blue Cloud Hall. She will definitely have a place in the Nirvana Dragon Arena. On the spectator stand, an old man spoke with admiration. Elder Xie, who was dressed in a red robe, kept nodding with a smile on his face. Obviously, he was proud of Susu's cultivation. She was the most outstanding disciple of the Blue Cloud Hall. Susu has also entered the water. Soon, when the Frost Demonic Dragon disappeared, Susu stood in the void and pondered for a moment. Then, she dove into the water and disappeared. That treasure must be under the water, guarded by the Frost Demonic Dragon. After Susu goes down, she should be able to get it smoothly. This light screen should dissipate for the time being. It will appear again when she comes out. With Susu's disappearance, there was no movement at the original place. The image projected from there also began to fade. However, just as all the images were about to disappear, a figure suddenly flashed, and the whole scene became clear again. Huh! Everyone looked up and saw a figure appear on the light screen. He was also standing in the air above the pool. It's him. It's Su-yi of the Bawang sect. He also found this place. Everyone cried out in surprise. The figure that appeared was all too familiar. A few days ago, it had caused quite a commotion in the primary selection. It could be said that there was almost no one in the 9-star city who didn't know Su-yi. He is also in the Origin Void stage. How is this possible? When they saw that Su-yi was also able to stand in the void without the use of Yuan Qi to transform, everyone once again let out a cry of astonishment. In the previous primary selection, the young man's performance was strong enough, but he always used Yuan Qi to rush into the air and fought with the 7-star sword school and the Gimdeo sect. Everyone felt that there was no doubt that the young man's cultivation was at the peak of the 9th level Yuan Jin realm. Who would have thought that they would see such a shocking scene? A Origin Void stage. The sound of people swallowing their saliva could be heard. Who knew how many people's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets? CW Original Chapter, Part 0. The 17-year-old Origin Void stage expert. Was he a freaking monster? How on earth did he cultivate? Everyone in the square was inexplicably shocked and made a terrible noise. This included the numerous aged figures in the spectator stands. They were shocked to the extreme, and all of them were unable to conceal the shock in their hearts. A 17-year-old Origin Void stage. It was probably rare to see a person in the 6 continents, the 3 continents, the 1 world, and the Chaos region. In comparison, those of the older generation who could not break through to the Origin Void stage in their lifetime, did that not mean that their cultivation was in vain? This was too shocking. He is actually in the Origin Void stage. Among everyone, Elder Wu from the Big Dipper sect was also sitting in the stands. However, unlike the others, who were simply shocked, Elder Wu was now filled with a deep sense of worry. The disciples of the Big Dipper sect, under the leadership of the young sect Master Hong Jinxiu, were already prepared to kill Su-yi in the secret territory. If they did not know the situation and directly went against him, they might suffer a great loss. How could Hong Jinxiu be a match for a young man in the Origin Void stage? Wanting to kill that young man was no different from courting death. At this moment, Elder Wu's heart was in his throat. He could not wait to rush into the secret territory and warn the Big Dipper sect disciples. However, this was not realistic. The Alliance Conference was not a place where the Big Dipper sect had the final say. It was impossible for the 3 first-rate forces to do anything at this time. Everything depended on Hong Jinxiu and the others. Good luck. Su-yi has also entered the pool. While everyone was still in shock, the young man stood in midair and watched for a while. Then, he also entered the pool. Not long after, all the images gradually faded and disappeared. Susu and Su-yi's figures could no longer be seen. The crowd's emotions were stirred up. They were extremely shocked by what they had just seen. Swoosh. But soon, a new scene appeared. It was Yin Shangyuan from the Crimson Sun sect. Once again, he drew everyone's attention away from the square. In the secret territory of Big Dipper sect, after Su-yi jumped into the pool, he felt a wave of cold air attack him. It wanted to penetrate his internal organs and freeze him completely. However, with a gentle circulation of his Yuan Qi, all these feelings were eliminated. In fact, even without the protection of his Yuan Qi, this kind of cold air could not hurt him. The diamond body that had been tempered by the golden dragon's blood essence was not afraid of this level of cold air. The commotion came from here. Someone has beaten me to it. I wonder which force it is. At the same time, Su-yi thought to himself as he dove. He had walked out of the old forest. Less than 2 hours later, he felt the commotion here. It seemed like someone was fighting. When Su-yi arrived at the pool, all the energy waves had disappeared. However, just from the cold air emitted by the pool, He could tell that this was not an ordinary place. Therefore, he went down to explore, hoping to find some treasures. Gurgle, gurgle. Bubbles rose around him as He continued to dive. After diving for about 100 feet, he was surprised to find that there was a different world under the pool. It was as if he had entered the stomach of a gourd. It was very spacious. In the distance, a person and a dragon were fighting fiercely. Icy demonic dragon. It's her. What a coincidence. He raised his eyebrows. He could not help but think as he looked at the face of the person who was fighting. The person who was fighting fiercely with the icy demonic dragon was the woman he had caught a glimpse of before entering the secret territory. She was also the person who had many conflicts with Su-Yi. When Su-Yi saw this, he hurriedly found an enormous underwater rock to hide. He restrained the aura on his body and started to observe the battle. He did not know the exact situation below, so he did not intend to make a move for now. He wanted to observe for a while first. Her strength is very strong. She seems to be much stronger than when I saw her that day. He rubbed his chin as he sized up the woman and thought in his heart. He was utterly unable to see through her cultivation at that time. Today, he was able to notice that the woman was actually close to the second level of the origin void stage, and her cultivation was not much inferior to his. Such strength was extremely terrifying. She had left countless geniuses behind her. At this moment, strength burst out from the woman's entire body. Wind attribute energy surged violently and set off enormous waves under the water that surged violently. Numerous sword lights shot out and forced the icy demonic dragon into a hopeless situation. The two of them dove down again and were about to fall to the bottom of the pool. That's Ice Soul Water Lily? Suddenly, Su-Yi's gaze moved. After his gaze swept over the bottom of the pool, he saw a snow-white plant rooted at the bottom of the pool, and it swayed along with the waves of the water. This snow-white plant looked like a coral at the bottom of the sea, but it looked more like it was made of snow that was sparkling and translucent. He recognized it. This plant was called Ice Soul Water Lily. It was a type of star-grade spirit medicine that was extremely rare. Ice Soul Water Lily can temper the soul. He thought of the plant's effect and could not help but be tempted. He looked at the fierce battle below. Seizing the opportunity when the icy demonic dragon and the woman were both unprepared, he fiercely stomped on the ground and shot out like an underwater cannonball, flashing straight towards the Ice Soul Water Lily. In less than the time of a breath, He quickly closed in. He waved his hand and struck out a light hand seal to seize the Ice Soul Water Lily. This movement immediately attracted the attention of the icy demonic dragon and the woman at the same time. Roar! The icy demonic dragon roared and ignored the woman, rushing towards Su-Yi's direction. It did not expect that in addition to the woman, there was a human here who wanted to steal the Ice Soul Water Lily. Pervert, it's you. Sure, Su also saw Su-Yi's face at this time, and her whole temperament suddenly changed. She raised her sword and rushed out, her body shuttling back and forth like a fish in the water. She frowned and slashed down with her sword without any hesitation. She had no intention of showing any mercy at all. Evil beast, how dare you? Su-Yi snorted coldly as he activated the primordial origin supreme technique within his body. A powerful oppressive force instantly spread out and ruthlessly suppressed the icy demonic dragon. For Su-Yi, the last thing he was afraid of was a barbaric beast. As long as it was not too much stronger than him, the Origin Supreme technique would form an absolute suppression. In an instant, the icy demonic dragon was stunned as if it had been hit hard. It was about to crawl down. Woman who bites the hand that feeds her. Su-Yi did not care about the icy demonic dragon. With a twist of his body, he hastily dodged the incoming sword. He did not want to take the attack of an Origin Void Stage expert head-on. Not to mention that this woman was definitely stronger than an ordinary Origin Void Stage expert. With a flip of his body, Su-Yi jumped to the side and stopped trying to seize the Ice Soul Water Lily. Instead, he frowned and stared at the woman opposite him. Pervert, I did not expect you to dare to appear. Today I must kill you. Chapter 1057. Shursusu no longer paid any attention to the frost demon dragon and the ice spirit water lily. She did not dare to tell anyone about what she had experienced in the barbarian demon forest, not even her master. Although later on, Shursusu also found out that she wasn't really violated, but she was really stripped naked by that young man. Furthermore, her first kiss had been taken away, and her body had been touched by the young man. He had even seen everything. All of this was no different from losing her virginity. If news of this were to spread, not only would she be laughed at, but the Ash Cloud Palace would also be laughed at by many cultivators in the Chaos Territory. Not only that, but the space bag on her had also been snatched away by the young man, including the most important broken sword in it. After Shursusu had left the barbarian demon forest, she had tried to find the young man for revenge and retrieve the broken sword. However, she had returned empty-handed. Who would have thought that the young man would appear in the Chaos Territory and participate in the Alliance Conference? There was only one thing in Shursusu's mind at the moment, and that was to cut the detestable young man in front of her into 18 pieces with her sword to make up for the humiliation she had suffered. Then, she would take a space bag and retrieve what belonged to her. You ungrateful woman. Luckily, I was kind enough to save you. Otherwise, you would have died a long time ago, without even leaving a piece of you. Su Yi's eyes narrowed as he spoke furiously. He really wanted to do a good deed. He was even willing to save the life of his enemy. How many people in this world could be as noble as him? However, this woman wanted to kill him as soon as she saw him. It was just like the old saying, good intentions are not rewarded. Burning incense will provoke ghosts. You must be Su Yi from the Bawang sect. Hurry up and return my blood demon killing god sword to me. I'll consider giving you a quick death. Shursusu's entire body surged with terrifying killing intent as she charged toward Su Yi. She immediately guessed the identity of the young man who had entered the secret realm of ominous spirits at such a young age. So that broken sword is called the blood demon killing god sword. What a domineering name. Su Yi muttered. The blood demon killing god sword that the woman was talking about was definitely that broken sword. He looked at the woman in front of him and said indifferently, I don't care what kind of sword it is. In short, I can't return it to you. Just treat it as your reward for saving my life. What kind of joke was this? The broken sword was one of his strongest trump cards. How could he return it so easily? Speaking of which, not only did this woman not thank him for saving her life, she even wanted to kill him. This made it even more impossible for him to return her things. Pervert, you're courting death. Shursusu shouted coldly, her beautiful face as cold as ice. She let out a shout and swung the long sword in her hand. Wind attribute energy spread out crazily and formed a terrifying sword light under the water, slashing towards Su Yi. The sword light was world-shaking, and the terrifying power spread out fiercely. A space was directly cut open at the bottom of the water. I don't have time to play with you here. Su Yi's mouth twitched as he brazenly punched out, heading straight for the sword light. However, this punch was gentle and did not really collide with the sword light. This caused his body to shoot backward and fall beside the Ice Soul water coral in an instant. Su Yi did not hesitate and grabbed it, plucked it, and threw it into his space bag. Next to him, the ice demon dragon let out a strange cry and seemed to want to rush up. However, when it felt the aura of the Origin Supreme technique on Su Yi, it did not dare to move. It was unwilling to give up. Get out of my way, or I won't be polite to you. Su Yi took the Ice Soul water coral in his hand and shouted coldly at the woman again. He had seen the woman with the people from the Ash Cloud Palace. In addition, he had heard of the outstanding people of the major forces, so he guessed her name at this time. As he shouted coldly, Su Yi swam underwater and floated up, ready to leave the pool. Pervert, I'm going to kill you. Seeing Su Yi's movements, Shursusu shouted and raised her sword to attack again. How could she let Su Yi leave so easily? The cultivation of the Origin Void stage was activated. The Origin Chi of the wind attribute spun wildly at the bottom of the pool, turning into dense and terrifying wind blades. They whistled and danced, rushing horizontally and vertically, cutting the bottom of the pool into pieces. These wind blades were like 10,000 swords returning to their master. All of them were aimed at Su-yi. I shadow sword art. Su-yi pinched his fingers as a sword, and a fierce aura swept out, accompanied by a cold aura. In an instant, the surrounding pool water was completely frozen, turning into solid ice. Crack, crack, crack. Countless wind blades shuttled through and cut the solid ice, but their speed was also sharply reduced, and their power was greatly reduced. It was difficult to form an effective attack. Chi-la. Then, a sword light shot out from Su-yi's fingers and broke the solid ice in front of him, creating a passage that allowed him to pass through. Su-yi went up, not intending to be entangled with Shirsusu here. There were many benefits in the secret realm of ominous spirits, and he needed to search for more. Many spiritual herbs and so on could be planted in the mysterious space. How could he waste time here? However, Shirsusu would not let him go so easily. She did not give up, and with another wave of the long sword in her hand, she broke the solid ice in front of her and quickly chased after him. Swoosh! Just as the two of them were about to break out of the water, Shirsusu shot out another sword light. Su-yi did not slack off. He turned around instantly, and an ordinary long sword appeared in his hand. At the same time, he slashed out a sword light to meet the attack. Boom! Under the collision of the two forces, a loud bang was heard, and the pool water was thrown up hundreds of feet high, scattering in the void. It was like a scene of a fairy scattering flowers. Look, there's movement again. In the square of Nine-Star City, the light screen flickered, and then the crowd saw countless splashes of water, as if there was a downpour. When the splashes fell and returned to the pool, two figures appeared in the crowd's sight, one after another. Shirsusu, Su-yi, the two of them are fighting. The crowd saw a young man and a woman standing opposite each other. Their auras were surging wildly, and the long swords in their hands were emitting sword light. Then they suddenly clashed. After that, the two figures quickly disappeared from the range of the light screen, and they never appeared again. Looking at the gradually dimming light screen, the square was instantly bustling with noise and excitement. Su-yi is so strong. That's Shirsusu, the most talented person in this generation of the Blue Cloud Palace. She can even be said to be the most talented person in this generation of the Chaos Realm. Su-yi is even more abnormal. He can actually fight with Shirsusu. I wonder who will win in the end. Also, who got the treasure below? Is it Su-yi or Shirsusu? It must have fallen into the hands of one of them. This battle is probably because of the treasure. Many people were amazed by the strength of Su-yi and Shirsusu, especially Su-yi. He was much younger than Shirsusu, but his cultivation had reached the origin void realm, which was unbelievable. Everyone wanted to know the outcome of the battle between two such outstanding people. In addition, what was the treasure below the pool, and who got in the end, were the questions that everyone was concerned about. However, it was a pity that they couldn't see these scenes. The two of them had already left the range of their view. But the more it was like this, the more the crowd felt their hearts itch. They couldn't wait to see the battle between the two with their own eyes. In the secret realm of mega spirits, two figures, one in front and one behind, flashed quickly like flying birds. Woman who bites the hand that feeds her. I don't have time to play with you. Su-yi curled the corner of his mouth. He just wanted to get rid of this woman. The most important thing for him was to find the treasure here and make a fortune silently. He didn't have time to waste with her. But the helpless thing was that this woman wouldn't let him go. She looked like she wouldn't let him go until he was dead, which made Su-yi's head hurt. Pervert! No matter where you run to, I will cut you down with my sword. Shirsusu gritted her teeth and said fiercely. In fact, she was also extremely shocked. Back then, this kid was incomparably weak in front of her. If it wasn't because he was injured in the battle with the Black Fiend sect, she could kill him with a finger. But now things had changed. This Su-yi's strength was actually not below hers. In the previous rounds, she couldn't hurt him at all. This made her shocked and angry. Susu had already lost her rationality. She only wanted to kill this kid. You're really annoying. Su-yi, who was moving forward, suddenly stopped and stood in the air. He coldly stared at Susu, who had stopped and was waiting for him. He said coldly, "Don't follow me anymore. Otherwise, I really won't be polite to you." Su-yi felt that he had already brewed a bellyful of anger, but he had saved her life, so he couldn't kill her now, right? Moreover, Susu was a disciple of the Blue Cloud Palace. If he killed her, the Blue Cloud Palace would probably drag him out no matter what. Su-yi had just settled down in the Chaos Realm, so he couldn't continue to live a life of desperation. "I'd like to see how you're going to be impolite to me." Susu's pretty face also darkened. She was actually threatened by the other party. If she could endure this, what could she endure? If she didn't vent the anger in her heart and take back the blood demon killing God sword, she definitely wouldn't let this matter rest. Walala. Just as Susu's words fell, suddenly, her delicate body began to release a biting, cold strength chi. It was like a sharp blade, cutting through the air and emitting an ear-piercing howl. With a single word, Susu prepared to attack again. This crazy woman. Su-yi cursed loudly. He felt that meeting such a woman was truly a disaster in his life. Chapter 1058. Su-yi pushed his speed to the limit, and his wind attribute energy circulated endlessly, hoping to get rid of Susu as soon as possible. But that woman also possessed wind attribute energy, and her movement technique was extraordinary, so it was not easy for Su-yi to shake her off. From time to time, Su-yi still had to turn around and block Susu's attacks. Under this chase, half a day quickly passed, and just when they passed by the vicinity of a mountain ridge, Su-yi sensed the aura of a powerful barbaric demon beast appear. "I've got it!" His eyes abruptly lit up as he thought of a pretty good idea. Su-yi's speed increased, and he headed towards the mountain ridge. After passing through the mountain, the aura of the barbaric demon beast became clearer and clearer. The second-level demon void stage mystic king demon tiger. It should be more than enough to block her. Su-yi saw a cave, and borrowing the dim light, he was able to see an enormous fierce tiger lying inside, glaring at him covetously. Roar! When the mystic king demon tiger saw someone approaching, it instantly emitted a low roar from its throat, and it swiftly crawled up from the ground, assuming a posture of wanting to pounce. "Block that woman behind me. After I've gone far away, you can get rid of her yourself." Su-yi didn't dawdle in the slightest, and he directly circulated the Origin Supreme technique, deterring the Mystic King Demon Tiger into submission. "Pervert, let's see where you can run to." Susu's delicate shout sounded out, and she followed closely behind Su-yi's footsteps. But right in the next instant, a shadow flashed before her eyes, accompanied by a roar, and an enormous fierce tiger pounced over, causing Susu to be shocked. Before she could react, this fierce tiger had already launched a fierce attack towards her, as if it wanted to eat her. "You guys have fun. I'll be leaving first." Su-yi waved his hand, and after lightly smiling at Susu, he whistled and instantly left. Seeing this scene, Susu's teeth itched. She truly didn't know why this mystic king demon tiger clearly bumped into Su-yi first, but insisted on charging towards her. But now that she was tightly restrained, Susu could only hate in her heart. It wasn't easy to get rid of this Xian King Demon Tiger. A Xian King Demon Tiger of the Demon Illusionary stage. TSK, TSK, TSK. I wonder if there were any treasures there. Su-yi sped away, thinking about some things. It seemed like the secret realm of ominous spirits was filled with danger. Although he was not afraid of it, most of the people who entered this place were of Yuan Zhan's stage. If those people were to encounter a demonic illusionary stage barbaric beast, they wouldn't even be able to escape in time. Let's hope they can handle it. As for Yuan Xuan, Lin Donghao, and the others, Su-yi was not worried. These people's strength was not bad, and with some life-saving methods, even if they were no match for him, they could still escape. What he was afraid of was Jihanhua, who was not very strong, and Chun Chuan, who was a poor rogue cultivator who did not even have a life-saving treasure. However, Su-yi did not think too much about it. It seemed that some things could only be left to fate. It was not something he could change. In fact, what Su-yi did not know was that although everyone who entered the secret realm of ominous spirits would be randomly distributed, everyone would appear in different areas according to their cultivation level. The reason why he encountered 2 demonic illusionary stage barbaric beasts in half a day was because he was in different areas. As long as those who were not too strong were not too unlucky and accidentally walked into these dangerous places, they should be able to handle most of the dangers. Let's continue with my plan to get rich. Su-yi did not think about these things anymore. He had just entered the secret realm of ominous spirits, and he had already gained a lot. This made him feel good. A stock of icy soul water coral could be sold for a lot of yuan stones outside. If he planted it in the mysterious space, it would be worth more when its quality was improved. But there is no pool in the mysterious space. Su-yi's expression suddenly froze as he thought of something very helpless. Although the mysterious space was huge, other than the ground, there was nothing else in it. Those native spiritual herbs were still fine. They could be planted directly. But how could he plant aquatic plants in it? Can we develop it and create mountains, rivers, lakes, and so on? Suddenly, Su-yi's mind spun quickly, and this idea popped up in his mind. The mysterious space was so huge, since he could open up a medicinal field and plant spiritual herbs. Based on this, it should be possible to move a few big mountains and a few big rivers in it. In this way, could he develop an independent world that belonged to him? If it could really be like this, that would be great. Su-yi immediately became excited and could not control himself. If it really went according to his plan, then the mysterious space would really be an independent small world. If he could let the energy in it evolve on its own and produce spiritual chi without the need to swallow yuan stones, then it would be perfect. If there's a chance, I must do this. Su-yi felt that this idea was totally worth a try. His idea would definitely be realized. He thought for a while. If there was a chance, should he catch some able-bodied men and put them in the mysterious space to cultivate the land and dig out a man-made lake to plant the icy soul water lily in first? Thinking of that beautiful scene, Su-yi felt very happy. He felt like he was floating as he walked. Time passed very quickly. Su-yi walked and stopped in the secret realm of ominous spirits. In the blink of an eye, a day had passed. This secret realm also had nighttime, which was synchronized with the outside world. When the thick darkness shrouded the land, Su-yi was still like an agile leopard moving about in the forest. He didn't want to waste any time, all for the sake of finding more spiritual herbs. To Su-yi, those were all glittering primordial stones. After such a long time, he also had some harvest, but it was not very rich. Most of the spiritual herbs that he found were of the celestial grade. Su-yi was not interested in them now. Other than the icy soul water lily, there was only one glazed stardew fruit that was of the star grade. It was a pity that the vine of the glazed stardew fruit began to wither after the fruit was plucked. It cannot be transplanted. Otherwise, Su-yi would definitely plant it in the mysterious space. There are not many treasures left in this secret realm that have been plundered. Su-yi was a little emotional. It was better to be a powerful force. They could occupy some secret realms that were blessed by nature and reap great benefits from it. For young people like him, this secret realm had been plundered by the experts of the Alliance. There were not many treasures left, and their grades were not too high. If there were any treasures, most of them would be fishes that escaped the net. In the night, Su-yi continued to walk. Not long after, he met a brute demon beast that was only at the 7th level of the Demon True realm. Su-yi used the art of the Origin Supreme to intimidate it. He then asked directly, "Are there any treasures around here?" If he wanted to find treasures, it was naturally the most effective to ask the brute demon beasts that were most active in this area. "My lord, there aren't any good treasures around here. There is only a purple emperor infant fruit tree growing in a mountain stream not far away. However, the purple emperor infant fruit on it has already been plucked." This was a monkey-type brute demon beast. It shook its head at Su Yi and said regretfully, "What? Purple Emperor infant fruit tree? Bring me there quickly." Su Yi exclaimed in surprise and said urgently. He had heard of the Purple Emperor infant fruit tree. The fruit on it was shaped like an infant. When it matured, it would be purple from the inside out. It was extremely effective. Even if an ultimate Emperor Realm expert consumed it, it would have the effect of increasing their cultivation. This kind of treasure was very rare. The fruit had probably been plucked by the experts of the Alliance long ago. However, Su Yi was not too disappointed. Who asked him to have the mysterious space? If there were treasures that could be transplanted, he would definitely sweep through this place. Only then would this trip be worthwhile. From today onwards, the Purple Emperor infant fruit tree belonged to Su Yi. Ah, yes, my lord. The monkey-type brute demon beast was stunned for a moment. However, it did not suspect anything and led Su Yi in a certain direction. Not long after, Su Yi saw the fruit tree that was more than 10 feet tall. Su Yi took out a pickaxe from his space bag and immediately started digging. He had prepared this kind of tool long ago, just in case he needed to use it. After a while, Su Yi finished digging. "Go to the periphery and help me keep a lookout. Don't let anyone get close to this place." Su Yi sent the monkey-type brute demon beast away and patrolled around. He wanted to find a place like a cave to plant the sapling first. This mountain stream was very majestic. The mountain peaks on both sides were straight and steep. Su Yi found a small cave in a relatively secluded corner and entered it. He called out the mysterious space and quickly planted the Purple Emperor infant fruit tree. He even planted the ice soul water coral casually. Now that there was no water in the mysterious space, he could only let the ice soul water coral settle down in the soil. However, with the mysterious space's uniqueness, it would not wither. Bang! Just as Su Yi walked out of the mysterious space, a loud sound came from afar. Following that, he heard the roar of a brute demon beast and the sound of energy whistling. Someone appeared nearby. Su Yi immediately realized that there must be disciples from other sects nearby. The roar of the brute demon beast came from the one that he sent away. "Let's go take a look." Su Yi's figure leaped out, heading in that direction. Soon, a young man with a gloomy face appeared in Su Yi's line of sight. The young man was wearing a pitch-black robe. His face was gloomy and pale, as if he had not seen the sun for decades. At this moment, the young man was waving a trident that emitted a dark green glow. He was fighting with a monkey-type brute demon beast. The young man had the absolute upper hand. However, when Su Yi appeared nearby, the young man immediately stopped attacking. He put away his trident and looked at the young man who suddenly appeared. Darking Gate, Sang Ming. Chapter 1059. You can leave now. Su Yi glanced at Sang Ming, then turned his head and spoke to the monkey-type brute demon beast. The brute demon beast was following his orders to keep watch in the vicinity. Su Yi didn't want to see it die in the hands of Sang Ming. Squeak! The monkey-type brute demon beast cheered as if it had been granted amnesty. It dragged its slightly injured body and quickly ran away. Sang Ming didn't make any move as he watched the scene. He completely ignored the brute demon beast's escape. Su Yi looked at him for a while. Seeing that the other party didn't say anything, he felt bored and wanted to leave to continue searching for treasures. Su Yi. At that moment, Sang Ming finally opened his mouth. His voice gave off a sinister feeling. Seeing that Su Yi was about to leave, he brazenly waved the trident in his hand. The sharp edge of the trident shot out and blocked Su Yi's path. "I don't have time to waste with you. Get out of my way." Su Yi's face sank when he saw this and coldly said. He didn't know Sang Ming, and they only met for the first time before entering the secret realm. Su Yi was very displeased that Sang Ming wanted to attack him. "You become famous recently. Fight with me, and let me see if you're qualified to be my stepping stone on the path of cultivation." Sang Ming was expressionless as he spoke indifferently like a dead man. Su Yi almost laughed when he heard this. There were all kinds of people in the world. Sang Ming had only met him for the first time, but he actually treated Su Yi as a stepping stone. Moreover, he even wanted to test him. If it wasn't for the fact that he didn't have the mood to waste time with this kind of person, he really wanted to teach him a lesson. If I remember correctly, the Darking Gate is only a second-rate force. Aren't you being a little too arrogant? Looking at the trident in front of him, he stared at Sangming and said coldly, "If you want to find stepping stones, there are quite a few of those 3 first-rate powers. For example, Qin Yu Sheng, Jing Shiran, Wu Jiuyo, and Fu Dongxian. If you have the guts, go challenge them. Only after defeating them will you be qualified to challenge me." He was not a person who was afraid of trouble. The reason why he brought out the most outstanding disciples of the 3 first-rate forces was to humiliate Sangming. No matter how strong Sangming, the number 1 disciple of the Dark Gate's younger generation, he shouldn't be stronger than those people. He was confident that he could overlook all of his peers in the Chaos Realm's Grand Assembly. How arrogant! I hope your strength is as good as your mouth, Sangming said coldly. Of course I know I'm not a match for those people. However, it won't be long before I trample them all under my feet. But now the strongest of the second-rate forces are the most suitable stepping stones for me. You, Yi, made a name for yourself in the Alliance Conference and was also the champion of the Central State Sacred Martial Assembly. You must be stronger than Hong Jinxiu and Yin Shang Yuan. Such strength is just right for me to sharpen my cultivation. As soon as he finished speaking, Sangming's arm shook and the trident in his hand suddenly struck out, aiming for Yi's chest. "You can't refuse," Sangming said. In a moment of disagreement, he attacked directly. The trident shot out a sharp light, and a chilly wind suddenly appeared in the mountain forest, as if it came from the underworld. The sound of ghosts crying and gods howling could be faintly heard, making one's scalp tingle. Under this aura, he felt his soul jump, but it calmed down in the next moment. Can't refuse? Yi's heart was filled with coldness. He frowned, and a murderous intent rose from his body. He said coldly, "You want me to be your stepping stone? You think you're worthy?" As he spoke, Yi's figure suddenly rose into the air and rapidly rose. A hazy radiance lingered around his body, making him look as dazzling as a rising moon in the dark night. 8 Desolate's fury, suppressing the mountains and rivers with 1 foot. These words came out of Yi's mouth. His black hair fluttered in the wind as a tyrannical aura shot out from his body, like the wrath of a thunderbolt. Violent ripples appeared in the surrounding space. The space trembled for no reason, and a monstrous aura surged. It was a terrifying scene. Under Yi's feet, an energy vortex spun rapidly like a storm, causing the void to explode. Facing the incoming trident, Yi valiantly stomped his foot down. Boom! The earth shook and the air roared. Such a stomp completely ignored the sharpness of Sangming's trident and directly stepped on the tip of the trident. However, the moment the two came into contact, Sangming felt as if he was being crushed by a huge force. It crushed down and passed through the trident in his hand to his body. In an instant, Sangming only felt that all of his vitality was suddenly collapsing and leaking out for thousands of miles. He had no power to resist at all and was instantly disintegrated like a dried twig. The originally upright body was instantly oppressed to the point that his spine almost broke. All the bones in his body creaked, and his legs sank deep into the ground. Cracks appeared on the ground, like a spider web that climbed out. The trident in Sangming's hand was sent flying. The palm that held the trident was badly mutilated, and half of his body was buried in the soil. Puff! Sangming's chest tightened, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His face that was as white as a sheet of paper became even paler. However, in his eyes, there was extreme horror and shock. Don't provoke me for no reason. If there's a next time, I don't mind crippling you. He landed on the ground and coldly glanced at Sangming. Then, he turned around and walked away without looking back. How can he be so strong? Watching the young man's figure leave, Sangming's eyes were filled with endless horror. He never thought that the young man who had just risen to fame would be so powerful. Sang Ming was only one step away from the Origin Void stage and could break through at any time. However, he was defeated by Su Yi in a single blow. The gap was too big. In that case, Su Yi could really be on the same level as Qin Yusheng, Jing Qiran, Wu Jiuyo, and the others. Puff, Sang Ming thought to himself, and suddenly spat out another mouthful of blood. His other palm was already badly mutilated. After struggling to climb out of the pit, he barely picked up the trident that was thrown aside and stood up shakily. Sang Ming stood quietly for a long time as he looked in the direction the young man left. Just as he turned around and left, 3 figures rushed out from the nearby forest. The 3 of them, led by a handsome young man, came to Sang Ming's side and observed the hole and other traces on the ground. Sang Ming, did you encounter a powerful savage demon beast, or were you beaten up by the people of the 3 major powers? Although the heroic young man was surprised by the injuries on Sang Ming's body, he still chuckled and said in a neutral tone. In fact, he had judged from the marks on the ground that the one who fought with Sang Ming was undoubtedly a human. Only a few people from the Blue Cloud Hall, 9 Stars Valley, and Blood Sun sect could injure the number 1 person of the younger generation of the Dark Ain Gate to such a state. Hong Jinxiu, do you want to fight? Faced with the young man's provocation, Sang Ming stabbed the trident into the ground and brewed a gloomy aura. Although he had just suffered a crushing defeat at the hands of Su Yi, Sang Ming was not afraid of Hong Jinxiu at all. Even though he was seriously injured, he still had the confidence to fight. Humph, I don't have time to fight with a lunatic like you. If you want to find a stepping stone, don't come looking for me. Hong Jinxiu snorted coldly and glared at Sang Ming. He then prepared to leave with the other 2 people behind him. But before leaving, Hong Jinxiu turned to Sang Ming and said, "By the way, that Bawang sect Su Yi's cultivation is not weak. I think after entering the secret realm, he will also fall in this area. If you meet him, tell me that he is a disciple of the Big Dipper sect, and I will owe you a favor." After saying that, Hong Jinxiu smiled casually, as if he did not particularly care about this matter. For him, entering the secret realm of ominous spirits was not only to obtain the benefits here, but also to kill the young man from the Bawang sect. But for Hong Jinxiu, this was just a matter of convenience. There was only 1 person from the Bawang sect, and a total of 50 people from the Big Dipper sect had entered. It was not easy to kill a young man. If he could find that kid earlier, he could solve this matter earlier and avoid delaying the search for the opportunities in the secret realm. Su Yi. After hearing Hong Jinxiu's words, Sang Ming could not help but raise his eyebrows with a strange expression on his face. Seeing that Hong Jinxiu was about to leave, Sang Ming frowned and pondered for a moment before saying, "I have seen Su Yi before." Oh! Hong Jinxiu stopped in his tracks and turned to look at Sang Ming. He smiled and said, "Where did you see that kid? He should be in that direction. You can go and look for him." Sang Ming glanced in a certain direction and gently raised his chin as he said to Hong Jinxiu. The direction he pointed was the direction Su Yi had left. "Haha, I didn't expect to find traces of that kid so quickly. This time, I owe you a small favor. If I have the chance, I will definitely return it to you," Hong Jinxiu said with a laugh. He waved his hand at Sang Ming and then led the other 2 disciples from the Big Dipper sect in the direction indicated by Sang Ming. Su Yi from the Bawang sect was already known by the entire Chaos region. He had made a name for himself in the Central region, and even the Sacred Mountain had suffered a great loss at his hands. However, Hong Jinxiu did not care about this. Since he dared to touch the people from the Gimdeo sect in the Chaos region, it was the same as provoking the Big Dipper sect. Naturally, he had to kill him. Phew! After watching Hong Jinxiu and the other 2 disappear, Sang Ming stood in the same place for a while. He slightly adjusted his breathing and spat out a mouthful of turbid air. Chapter 1060. Su Yi shuttled through the forest, constantly searching for treasures such as spiritual herbs. As time passed, he finally met more people on the second day. In addition to the disciples of the sects whom he was not familiar with, there were 2 familiar faces. They were Yu Wenshuan from Xinjian sect and Lin Bingyao from Liu's sect. The others he met were all outstanding talents from their respective sections. None of them were weak. It seems that the area to enter the secret realm of ominous spirits is distributed according to cultivation level. Su-yi quickly discovered this point and knew that most of the people in the vicinity were the strongest disciples of some sections. From Shi Su to Sang Ming, Yuan Xuan, and Lin Bingyao, Sang Ming. However, as the crowd moved, this distribution would gradually be broken. The further they went, the more people with different strengths would come into contact with each other. The purpose of the alliance was probably for the sake of the disciples who were not too strong. It was to prevent all the opportunities along the way from falling into the hands of the strong and causing many people to return empty-handed. Brother Su-yi, let's travel together. What do you think? Lin Bingyao, who was wearing a water-patterned silk dress, came to Su-yi's side and asked. She had met Yuan Xuan earlier and had traveled together for some time. Forget about traveling together. We can only find more opportunities if we split up. However, I have some questions that I would like to ask you. Su-yi nodded. There were still some things that he did not know about the secret realm of ominous spirits. Now that he had met these two people, he could learn more about it. We are now in the periphery of the secret realm of ominous spirits. Everyone needs to gather at the center. The Nirvana Dragon platform is there. It is the final test and also the exit. The 10 strongest people in the alliance will be determined there and obtain great opportunities. In addition, there are other benefits in the secret realm of ominous spirits. In fact, this place has been explored by the Alliance for many years. However, until today, we can still occasionally find some extraordinary benefits. If we are lucky enough, we may be able to obtain an extraordinary opportunity. It may even be more valuable than the Nirvana Dragon platform. While the three of them traveled together, Su-yi also asked the two of them some questions about this secret realm. Yuan Xuan and Lin Bingyao told Su-yi everything they knew. For disciples of third-rate forces like them, there was basically no hope for them to compete for the Nirvana Dragon platform. But in the process of exploring secret realms, they would generally be able to obtain considerable benefits. And this kind of benefit was very difficult for them to obtain in the outside world. If that's the case, we should really explore it properly. Su-yi nodded, then looked at the two of them and asked, Then how do I determine where the center is? This was a problem that Su-yi was very concerned about. If he didn't know this, he would be like a headless fly in the vast spirit's secret realm. If he couldn't reach the Nirvana Dragon platform and the exit within 9 days, he would be sealed in this secret realm. We don't know either. Hearing Su-yi's question, Lin Bingyao smiled bitterly and said, But it's not difficult to determine. There are many savage beasts here. As long as we can subdue 1 or 2 of them, it'll be easy to find the way. Su-yi nodded again. This was also a method that he had thought of before. Well, what's going on over there? Just as the three of them were chatting, Su-yi was suddenly startled. He saw many people gathering in the distance. They were hurrying on with their journey, and at the same time, they were whispering to each other. Something unusual must have happened. Brother Su-yi, let's go and take a look. What do you think? Yuan Xuan looked at Su-yi and said, Let's go and ask. Su-yi nodded. Of course, he had to join in the fun. As they spoke, the three of them rushed in the direction of the crowd. Soon, 5 figures appeared in front of them. Su-yi looked around and saw the clothes on these people. They were from 2 third-rate forces, 3 from the Absolute Heaven sect, and 2 from the Wild Blade sect. They were not weak. When Su-yi, Yuan Xuan, and Lin Bingyao landed in front of them, the 5 of them were stunned. Especially when they saw the young man in the lead, their eyes were filled with fear. Were you guys going in such a hurry? Su-yi did not beat around the bush and asked directly. He observed for a moment and found that the 5 of them were not very strong. They were basically at the 5th or 6th level of Yuanjin stage. They should not be in this area. This if the 5 of them suddenly stammered. They did not want to answer, but they did not dare to not answer. This made Su-yi raise his eyebrows. He looked at them coldly and said, Do you want me to use some tricks to make you say it? This was the Chaos region. Strength was everything. When Su-yi saw the 5 of them, he knew that there was a big problem. Su, Lord, among the 5 of them, a person with a black mole on his face put on a bitter face and said to Su-yi, "We just received a message from the experts in our sect. They said there is, the person spoke halfway and stuttered again. Hmm? Su-yi furrowed his brows and snorted coldly. The 5 of them were so scared that their legs went soft. They were scared out of their wits by the young man's snort. The memory of Su-yi's power on the arena that day was still fresh in their minds. They would never forget it for the rest of their lives. Not to mention the disciples, even the strongest of the younger generation in their respective sects would not be a match for this young man, Su-yi. The experts in our sect sent a message saying that a treasure has appeared. They want us to gather and try to seize it. Soon, another person's body trembled, but he tried to speak clearly. Hearing the words treasure, Su-yi's eyes suddenly lit up. He was overjoyed. Wherever there were benefits, Su-yi would be there. Since he had encountered such a thing, how could he miss it? Lead the way. I also want to see what kind of treasure it is. Don't worry. As long as you don't make an enemy of me, I won't touch you, Su-yi said with a wave of his sleeve. Hearing him say this, the 5 people from the Extreme Heaven sect and the Wild Blade sect breathed a sigh of relief. However, they still maintained extreme caution, afraid that they would accidentally offend this young man from the Bawang sect. Under the lead of the 5 people, Su-yi, Lin Bingyao, and Yu Wenxuan continued to walk in the secret territory. It actually made the people of 2 sects gather. What kind of treasure has appeared? As they advanced, Yu Wenxuan murmured to himself, "It's definitely not simple. Otherwise, even the strongest of the Extreme Heaven sect and the Wild Blade sect would not have so easily gathered the scattered disciples so early," Lin Bingyao said after thinking for a while. At the side, Su-yi nodded slightly, agreeing with Lin Bingyao's words. Before entering the secret territory, every disciple of the major forces would carry a communication item with them. Within a certain range, they could communicate with each other. However, this item would generally not be used unless there was danger and needed to be rescued. Otherwise, when a treasure was discovered, it would be difficult to obtain it due to insufficient manpower. Otherwise, the dozens of disciples would of course all scatter in order to obtain more benefits. The disciples of the 2 sects led the way in front, while Su-yi and the other 2 followed closely. In order to speed up their journey, Su-yi found a bird-type savage beast along the way. After subduing it, the 8 of them rode on it together. Easily taming a savage beast of the demon true realm, Su-yi's means shocked a few of them, but no one said anything. After 2 hours, the group arrived at a large mountain. When they climbed to the top of the mountain, Su-yi and the others were surprised to find that there were actually some broken ruins here. There seems to be a small mountain gate here, but it's already in ruins. All the buildings have collapsed. Looking around, Lin Bingyao whispered softly at the same time. The surrounding walls were broken and dilapidated. Weeds and trees grew in the cracks of the stones everywhere. Very few of the original building walls had been completely preserved. However, they could vaguely see the general situation of this place in the past. It was not particularly glorious. At most, it was the standard of a 3rd or 4th-rate force. Is this the place where the treasure is? Su-yi's eyes were burning as he looked around, trying to find some traces. He found that there were some other mountains in the surroundings. There were also some buildings on them, but they looked much smaller than the place they were at now. Obviously, this was the main mountain. These broken buildings looked very old, probably dating back to a very long time ago. It was unknown whether this place collapsed because of fierce battles or because of the decay of time. My lord, the people of our sect have already gone to another mountain. The Absolute Heaven sect disciple, with a black mole on his face, carefully moved in front of Su-yi and said in a trembling voice, Su-yi nodded. There was no need for this person to remind him. He had already noticed this. On the other mountain peaks, there were many figures shuttling in and out of the dilapidated buildings, as if they were looking for something. Su-yi saw all of this. Let's go and ask about the situation. Su-yi no longer cared about the 5 people. He immediately rode on the barbarian beast with Yu Wenxuan and Lin Bingyao and headed towards a mountain peak not far away. Sue, this young man gives off too much pressure. How can he have such a strong aura? When Sue E and the other two left, the young man with a black mole relaxed. The sweat on his forehead began to flow down, and he couldn't wipe it in time. The young man from the Bawang sect was too terrifying. He couldn't even think of resisting. That invisible aura was not something an ordinary person could have. We brought him here. Will senior brother blame us? A wild blade sect disciple swallowed a mouthful of saliva and said worriedly. Chapter 1061. Once this matter was known by their sect, their elders might blame them. Don't worry. The treasure belongs to those who are fated to get it. No one can force it. Sue E is very strong, but the treasure might not belong to him. Another disciple from the Wild Blade sect comforted his companion and himself at the same time. They turned their gazes and saw that the bird-type savage beast had already landed on a mountain peak not far away, with 3 people on its back. By the time Sue E found the dilapidated mountain gate under the guidance of the people from the 2 sects, Hong Jinxiu had already gathered 7 or 8 Big Dipper sect disciples in the direction he came from, and they were traveling together. They soon noticed that the people from the Wild Blade sect and the Extreme Heaven sect were leaving in a hurry. Relying on their absolute strength, they caught a few people and questioned them. Hong Jinxiu also quickly learned about the appearance of the treasure. Let's not care about Sue E for now. Let's go and see what the treasure is first. No matter what it is, our Big Dipper sect must get it. Hong Jinxiu's handsome face was filled with confidence. Something that could make the disciples of the 2 sects go all out to search for it must not be something simple. Their Big Dipper sect was a second-rate force. The Extreme Heaven sect and the Wild Blade sect were third-rate forces, so it was impossible for them to get the treasure. Even if those people really got it first, they would have to obediently spit it out when the time came. With this thought in mind, Hong Jinxiu and the others hurried on. However, they weren't like Sue E, who could easily catch a flying beast as a mount. Thus, their speed was much slower, and they had to cross over mountains and valleys. Lei Quan, what are you looking for here? Sue E, Yu Xuan, and Lin Bingyao landed on a mountain peak. After jumping off the back of the savage beast, Yu Xuan asked the young man in purple clothes. Yu Xuan, Lin Bingyao, Sue. Seeing the 3 people who suddenly appeared, the young man in purple clothes was stunned at first. A look of surprise flashed across his eyes. He was the eldest disciple of the Extreme Heaven sect and was the strongest. The people in the sect came here to find the treasure because of his message. Did you find some treasure here? Looking at you guys, it seems like it's going to be hard to find. Why don't we work together? Lin Bingyao looked at the purple-clothed man, Lei Quan, and said with a smile. Her beautiful eyes swept past her surroundings. At this moment, there were several disciples of the Heaven-Severing sect roaming around the ruins, carefully searching for something. I have indeed found some traces of something. However, it is very difficult to capture it. That is why I have gathered all the disciples here. However, I believe it will be very difficult to find it in a short period of time. Hearing Yu Xuan and Lin Bingyao's words, Lei Quan shook his head and said, Forget about us joining hands. Since the 2 of you have come, then go your separate ways. As for who the treasure ends up in, it will all depend on your own luck. After saying that, he looked away and took one last deep look at Sue E. Then, he leaped away and continued to search for something. Sue E couldn't help but raise his eyebrows at the young man's behavior. This person was very open-minded and seemed to be able to get over it. Even if the treasure ended up in the hands of others, he did not care too much about it. I'm afraid it's not that simple. Sue E touched his chin and thought to himself. It seems that the treasure they are looking for is in the vicinity. This mountain is being searched by the Heaven-Severing sect, and the people on the other mountain are all disciples of the Wild Blade sect. Yu Xuan's eyes were sharp as he discovered the situation on the other mountain. There were also several figures appearing and disappearing from time to time, passing through the collapsed mountain gate. These 2 parties are together, but they are searching separately. This can only mean that the treasure is not in a fixed place. I'm getting more and more curious. What kind of thing is it? Could it grow legs and run on its own? Lin Bingyao said softly. Why don't we also split up? This way, our chances will be greater. Just like what Lei Quan said, in the end, it all depends on who gets it. Su Yi thought for a while and said to Yu Wenshuan and Lin Bingyao beside him. All right. The two nodded. Then, Su Yi did not delay any longer. His figure leaped out and began to search everywhere. Yu Wenshuan and Lin Bingyao also split up and went to different places. A treasure that can run? What kind of thing is it? As Su Yi walked through the dilapidated buildings, he was also thinking about this question. Things that could move freely, other than humans and savage beasts, were either items with spirituality or high-grade spiritual herbs like the blood jade spirit ginseng. Lei Quan from the heaven-severing sect did not explain in detail, but Su Yi felt that the latter was more likely. Under his search, Su Yi also discovered that there were many traces of human activity in these dilapidated buildings. Moreover, they were not left behind recently. It was obvious that the experts of the Alliance had searched here before. If there were any good things, they would have been plundered clean. After searching for 4 hours, Su Yi found nothing. Looking at the other places, he saw that everyone was also searching carefully. However, each of them had a hint of impatience. Obviously, no one had any news. The news should be true, but the concealment method of the treasure is too strong. It's hard to find traces of it. Su Yi furrowed his brows as he thought to himself. If they could not confirm the authenticity of the news, the heaven-severing sect and the Wild Blade sect would not have gathered all their disciples here and ignored the other benefits. However, if he continued to search like this, he did not know when he would find the treasure. Let's search for a while more. If there's no movement, we'll leave first. Su Yi pondered for a while and made the final decision. He did not want to continue wasting time here. He pulled himself together and circled around the mountain peak. Suddenly, a ray of light flashed past the front corner and quickly drilled into a damaged hall, disappearing without a trace. Su Yi's expression brightened as joy appeared on his face. Could it be? Without a second thought, he also rushed into the dilapidated hall. The light just now was not big. It was only the size of 2 fists and emitted a misty light. Su Yi did not see its specific appearance clearly, but the rough outline was actually a small savage beast. It's very likely that it's the treasure they're looking for. Su Yi was pleasantly surprised. However, he was not sure what kind of treasure it was for those young disciples to value it so much. This question could only be answered after Su Yi had a clear look at the person's face. Where did it run to? Beams of light shone into the dark and dilapidated hall, making it possible to see a little bit of the place. Su Yi restrained all his aura and floated in the void a foot above the ground without making any sound. After he entered the hall, quietly, he looked around. Suddenly, a small head popped out from corner. It was fluffy like a kitten and emitted a misty light. After seeing Su Yi, the pair of watery eyes on the little head were startled and quickly shrank back into the corner. That's Su Yi was stunned. Just now, he finally saw the light figure clearly. It really was a small beast with a strong and dignified appearance. It was very strange. It doesn't look like a savage beast, but it has the aura of a demon. Through that glimpse and the remnant aura, Su Yi determined that the dignified creature was not a real savage beast. What was strange was that it had the aura of a demon. This was quite contradictory. Could it be? All of a sudden, Su Yi seemed to have thought of something, and his entire body shook violently. Weapon spirit. It's very likely that it's a weapon spirit. I wonder what kind of weapon or treasure it came from. Su Yi knew that weapons were divided into Yuan weapon, dark weapon, spiritual weapon, Dao weapon, magic weapon, holy weapon, and divine weapon. Most weapons did not have weapon spirits. Only when the weapon reached an extremely high level would it have the chance to give birth to a weapon spirit. Other than that, it was also possible to capture a powerful soul and place it into a weapon to form a weapon spirit. No matter which method the artifact spirit was created, there was a common premise, and that was that the artifact spirit had to be powerful enough. Otherwise, it wouldn't be able to accommodate a spirit, even if it wasn't too powerful. In other words, a weapon with a weapon spirit was definitely a rare treasure. No wonder it attracted the attention of the Wild Blade sect and the Absolute Heaven sect. Suyi's heart was filled with joy. If a powerful magic weapon, or even a holy weapon, could really appear in this secret realm, then this trip would not have been in vain. Seeing the little beast spirit retract its head, Su-yi would not let it go so easily. "Don't run. Quickly bring me to your body." Su-yi was excited and chased after it. However, the little beast was too agile and its speed was extremely fast. In a short time, it disappeared into a small hole. Su-yi did not even have time to see its other parts clearly. "I can't let it run away." Su-yi struck out a palm and blasted a big hole in the damaged wall of the main hall. He quickly followed. However, the little beast's movements were too fast. Its body turned into an afterimage, and as it moved, it was like a streak of lightning. With Su-yi's cultivation, coupled with the wind attribute Yuan Qi and the Fuyao Hunter transformation steps, he could not catch up. In just the blink of an eye, the little beast had swept dozens of feet away. Moreover, it was extremely agile. It only took corners and small holes to escape, making Su-yi, who was following behind, very anxious. "I can't care so much." Since he had already seen the little beast spirit, Su-yi was definitely not willing to let it go. Every time the little beast turned into a corner, Su-yi would wave a palm of light. Under the powerful burst of power, the broken walls and hard stones in front of him were all smashed. Chapter 1062. However, this caused a huge commotion on the mountain peak, which instantly attracted the attention of other places. "It's Su-yi from the Bawang sect. I didn't expect him to be here too." Some people had not noticed Su-yi's existence until now, and when they saw him appear and make such a big commotion, they could not help but be stunned. "What is he doing?" Soon, some people were surprised. Su-yi's actions were too strange. He smashed the obstacles in front of him again and again, as if he was chasing something. Look in front of him. Is that the little beast we're looking for? A disciple from the Violent Saber sect exclaimed and pointed at a place not far from Su-yi. There was no need for him to remind them. In fact, many people saw a light figure leaping up from the messy rocks. It shuttled back and forth like lightning, passing by in an instant and disappearing again. The first person who found this thing described the characteristics of the treasure to the later people. It was in the shape of a small beast, and it was extremely fast and agile. It was very difficult to catch, and it was very similar to the light figure they saw just now. "Yes, that's it," a disciple shouted excitedly. Su-yi found it and is chasing after it. Do we still have a chance? However, when they saw the young man's figure behind the light figure, many people suddenly felt guilty and did not move forward. Many people had witnessed Su-yi's strength with their own eyes. It could be said that among all the disciples of the third-rate forces, no one was his opponent. Even if dozens of people joined forces, they would not be able to threaten him at all. At this time, he was chasing the little beast, and the others were a little hesitant and did not dare to go forward. "Don't run. I'll give you something delicious to eat," Su-yi shouted as he chased after the little beast. Anyway, at this time, he had attracted the attention of others, so there was no need to worry anymore. However, the little beast was too agile and its speed was very fast. When he passed through the dilapidated wall, he ran into the dense forest with a swoosh and walked all the way down the mountain. Forget it. The treasure has not fallen into his hands yet. No matter who it is, we still have a chance. Let's follow it quickly. But soon, someone gritted his teeth and made up his mind. After saying this, he rushed out and headed in the direction of Su-yi. When the others saw this, they emboldened themselves and followed after him. Brother Su-yi found the trace of the treasure. On another mountain peak, Yu Wen-xuan and Lin Bingyao also discovered this scene and chased after it. In just a short while, the originally lively mountain peaks were quickly emptied of people. Not even a shadow could be found. Not long after, two more groups of people arrived. The first to arrive was a woman. Her appearance was peerless and graceful. She stepped on the air and arrived. It was sure Susu of the Blue Cloud Hall. She stared in the air for a moment before choosing a direction to fly towards. It was the direction that Su, Yi, and the others were heading towards. Not long after Sure Susu left, Hong Jinxiu and the other Heavenly Dipper Sect disciples arrived with the Heaven-Severing Sect and Heavenly Dipper Sect disciples in custody. These people were only at the Yuan Zhen stage, and it was difficult for them to walk in the air for long periods of time. All of them had to travel on the ground, and only when they encountered insurmountable obstacles would they transform their Yuan Qi and travel in the air. You dare to lie? After arriving at the mountain peak, a Heaven Sect's disciple beside Hong Jinxiu suddenly glared at the Heaven Sect and Wild Blade Sect's disciples. At this time, there was no one on the mountain peak, which made the Heaven Sect's disciples feel like they had been deceived. My lord, we dare not. A 25-year-old Wild Blade Sect's disciple suddenly cried and said in fear, "What we said is true. I'm afraid that Big Brother and the others have already left." The other two sect's disciples heard this and nodded like chickens pecking at rice. "I don't think they dare." Hong Jinxiu's face was expressionless. He turned his head and said indifferently, "Quickly contact your people and ask where they went." Under his order, the two sect's disciples did not dare to disobey and immediately began to contact others. After a while, there was a sound in their communication and a message was sent. Sui, when he heard that Su Yi was leading the group to chase after the treasure, Hong Jinxiu's eyebrows suddenly raised, like two swords that had come alive. He waved his sleeves and said in a deep voice, "Quickly chase." The group hurriedly chased after the treasure. On the other side, Su Yi was chasing after the little beast. They had already climbed over many mountains and passed through a long stretch of dense forest. The speed of this man and beast was so fast that they had already left the others in the dust. Damn it can run. Sui could not help but feel a little tired. Using 120% of his strength to chase after the little beast, his breathing began to become rapid. Such a huge piece of news was not much different from an all-out battle. Even so, he still could not catch up with the little beast. He did not know how such a small thing could have such powerful legs. However, Su-Yi was finally able to get a good look at the little beast's appearance. It was a very strange beast. It had a strong head and a tiger's brain, but it had a dragon-like tail. Looking closely, it was a bit like a snake's tail. In addition, it carried a turtle shell on its back, which was engraved with polygonal patterns. For small claws stretched out from under the turtle shell. It was not very clear, but there was a cloud of mist coming from under the claws. Su-Yi felt that it was very likely that it was 4 dragon claws. Not only that, sometimes when Su-Yi approached the little beast at full speed, it could actually stretch out 2 wings from under the turtle shell. Under the rapid flapping, it could pass through the undulating forest as if it were walking on flat ground. 4 spirits coexisting in one body. What kind of strange creature is this? Su-Yi chased after the little beast and muttered to himself. The azure dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, and black tortoise were the 4 divine beasts, collectively known as the 4 spirits. The little beast in front of him actually had some of the characteristics of these 4 spirits at the same time. Dragon claws, tiger head, sparrow wings, and turtle shell. Su-Yi had never seen such a strange creature before. Perhaps only the weapon spirit born from some powerful tool would have such a strange appearance. "Little guy, don't run. I have delicious food here." Su-Yi shouted from behind, feeling somewhat anxious. The little beast did not seem to be tired at all, which made Su-Yi very distressed. If it ran like this, he would not be able to catch up even if he tired himself to death. In Su-Yi's shouting, the little beast did not look back. Instead, it ran even more happily. "I really do have delicious food here." Su-Yi's teeth were itching. He had no idea how to lure the little beast, or could it be that he could not lure it at all and could only forcibly suppress it? If that was the case, Su-Yi felt that he should just give up. If he could not even catch up, how could he suppress it? Gulp, Su-Yi took out a bottle of chi-replenishing pills from his interspatial bag and swallowed 5 or 6 pills in one gulp. However, The speed of this replenishment was somewhat slow and could not keep up with his consumption. After a while, he simply took out a bottle of spiritual liquid and took a sip. Under the circulation of the cultivation method in his body, it turned into abundant primordial chi, causing the great void divine sea to be filled again. However, at this moment, the little beast that was running quickly in front suddenly looked back and seemed to be sniffing. When he put the cork back on the bottle, it started running again. This scene was caught by he, who was staring at it at all times. It really wants to eat delicious food? He was inexplicably surprised. A weapon spirit was actually interested in the spiritual liquid. This was a rare thing. Little guy, don't run. I'll give you the spiritual liquid here. He was overjoyed. He did not care why and immediately pulled out the cork, causing the rich smell of the spiritual liquid to overflow. It had to be said that the spiritual liquid produced by the mysterious space was really extraordinary. When it was placed in the outside world, in just an instant, it caused the area within a radius of hundreds of feet to be filled with a refreshing feeling. The spiritual chi seemed to have become many times denser. Following this situation, the little beast in front really slowed down. It actually slowly stopped and looked back at It even stuck out its tongue and licked its lips. Little guy, be good. I won't hurt you. I'll give you all the spiritual liquid here. If it's not enough, I have more. Suyi's mouth was almost reaching his ears. He laughed like a fool. He finally found a way to deal with this little beast. He also stopped, afraid that he would scare the little beast away again. Since the little beast liked the taste of the spiritual liquid, it could be said that the heavens were really on Suyi's side. After all, in the whole world, he was probably the only one who had this item. Didn't that mean that among all the people who had entered the secret realm of ominous spirits, only he had the chance to tame this little beast and obtain the unknown powerful item? At the thought of this, he was even more overjoyed. Come with me, okay? He held up the spiritual liquid bottle that he had just sipped and gently shook it twice, causing the rich smell to become stronger. However, the little beast did not walk over. Instead, it showed a somewhat human-like look of disdain. What the F***CK? Are you looking down on me? He was stunned. Could it be that because he had drunk this bottle of spirit liquid, this little beast was disgusted by this bottle of spirit liquid? As expected, just as he opened another bottle of spiritual liquid, the little beast's eyes shone brightly. Come with me. This spiritual liquid is yours. He showed 2 rows of big white teeth and said with a smile. However, although the little beast looked very eager, it still did not go forward. He was helpless. He looked around and found a cave not far away. The entrance of the cave was not too big. Suddenly, Suyi's eyes lit up and a plan came to his mind. It's okay if you don't come with me. This bottle of spiritual liquid is for you. We should be friends. Suyi's lips curled into a smile as he uttered words that could only fool a 3-year-old child. As he spoke, he slowly moved towards a small cave. Chapter 1063. The spiritual liquid is yours. Let's be friends. He blurted out some nonsense as he ran away, leaving the area to the little beast. He could tell that the little beast was very cautious and would not let anyone get close to it. Now that it was tempted by the spiritual liquid, this was a rare opportunity for Sui. Therefore, Sui planned to lure it into the cave and find a chance to capture it. Once he succeeded, he would be rich. He might even get another artifact, or even a divine artifact. By then, a bottle of spiritual liquid would be nothing. Sui thought as a matter of course. With this thought, he quickly retreated into the distance. Under the little beast's gaze, he instantly dashed hundreds of feet away until their vision was blocked by the mountain range, and they could not see each other clearly. You must take the bait. He found a place to stop. He suppressed all the chi in his body to the lowest and tiptoed back the way he came. After a while, he crouched behind a huge rock and peeked out to look at where the little beast was. After Sui disappeared, the little beast still stood in the same spot for a long time. However, That pair of quick-witted tiger eyes looked around for a while, occasionally glancing at the cave, licking its lips, and swallowing its saliva. After thinking for a long time, the little beast still couldn't resist the tempting aura of the spiritual liquid. After confirming that there was no movement in the surroundings, it began to slowly walk toward the cave. It looked back 3 times with every step, looking very cautious. What it did not know was that all its movements had been seen by the human just now. "I'm halfway there." He was overjoyed. Seeing that this step of his plan had succeeded, he was very excited. That was an artifact spirit. If he captured it, who knew what kind of domineering artifact he would get? This made look forward to it. Go into the cave. Go in quickly. Looking at the little beast walking slowly, Suyi's heart was filled with anxiety, and he kept shouting silently. At the same time, the chi in his body was also preparing to sneak over at any time and then pounce to capture the little beast. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. The little beast walked slowly, looking back from time to time. But soon, it reached the entrance of the cave and slowly walked in. Suyi placed the small bottle of spiritual liquid in the middle of the cave to let the little beast enter a deeper position so that it would be easier for him to make his move. At this time, the little beast had already walked close to the spiritual liquid. Suyi's eyes, and he slowly moved his body, preparing to sneak over. He had already thought of the plan. When the little beast started to drink the spiritual liquid in the bottle, it would be the best time for him to make his move. As Su sneaking, the little beast had already lifted the spiritual liquid bottle of the spiritual liquid of the spiritual liquid. However, at this moment, a voice suddenly came from not far behind him, startling him. "Thief, let's see where you can run to." When this voice appeared, He shouted in his heart. It was actually that crazy woman who had found him. This made him feel that something was wrong. How could he still care about Susu's appearance? He immediately rushed towards the cave. He only wanted to catch the little beast as soon as possible. But it was too late. When Susu's voice resounded, the little beast in the cave was shocked. It did not even care about drinking the spiritual liquid. It threw the bottle down and ran away. When He rushed to the cave entrance, the little beast jumped out in front of him. With its 4 claws and wings, its speed was extremely fast. With a whoosh, it rushed into the bushes at the side. Just as He was about to continue chasing, a warning sign came from behind him. A sword light pierced through the air and whistled over with a sharp chi. Gulp! He did not dare to be negligent. He rolled on the ground and turned into a rolling gourd. He dodged Susu's attack. However, with this delay, he pushed open the bushes to take a look. There was not even a trace of the little beast. "I'll get your uncle, 4th uncle, and grandma." He cursed. There were 100,000 alpacas galloping in his heart. Seeing that he was about to succeed, he actually let the little beast run away. This made his heart collapse. "You crazy woman. I haven't settled the score for the last time. Now you're here to trick me again. Do you really think I don't have a temper? Do you believe that I won't push you into the cave and ruthlessly rub it?" Suyi's face became ferocious. His eyes were spewing flames of anger. He roared at the beautiful figure in the air. He was extremely distressed. He had spent a bottle of spiritual liquid, but he did not catch the little beast. "You thief, I'm going to kill you." Hearing Suyi's frivolous words, Susu's chest rose and fell violently. It was a spectacular sight. Her cheeks were boiling hot. What happened in the cave a long time ago seemed to come back to her, making her feel ashamed and resentful. Her hatred for the young man could not help but grow even stronger. After a scream, Susu raised her sword and charged straight at Suyi. Everything that happened just now was naturally seen by her eyes. That little beast also surprised her. But at this time, when she heard Suyi's words, Susu suddenly felt endless resentment. How could she care about the artifact's spirit? She only wanted to cut that lecher into 18 pieces with her sword. Swish! A sword light swept out like a rainbow across the sky, crossing the sky and slashing straight at Suyi. If I don't teach you a lesson today, you won't know why the flowers are so red. Facing such a scene, Su-yi was also angry. The artifact's spirit little beast escaped, which made him instantly hold back a bellyful of anger. At this time, Shirsusu raised her sword and attacked again. Su-yi did not even think about it and met it head-on. Unknowingly, he was already holding a large saber in his hand and suddenly slashed out. Furious Dragon slash. With a swoosh, the saber aura rose to the sky like a bolt of lightning, fiercely colliding with the sword light. Boom! The two energies collided, causing a huge tremor. The void trembled, the forest shook, and stones rolled down. A terrifying energy storm swept out, cutting many of the trees and the surroundings into pieces. Pieces of rocks were thrown into the air, and rubble pierced through the air. Under this scene, the two figures flew out in opposite directions, each retreating a distance of several hundred feet. However, after Shirsusu stabilized her body, her slender waist twisted again and once again charged at Su-yi. Today, I'm going to slap your ass into 18 pieces and let you see what it means to have a peach blossom all over the ground. Su-yi roared furiously, raising his saber to meet it. A terrifying collision instantly erupted between the two. Between the two Origin Void stage cultivators, layers of sword light and saber light overlapped, frantically sweeping out. The nearby trees and some mountain rocks were shattered one after another under such a terrifying collision, from the whole into fragments, and then from the fragments into fine powder. For a time, smoke and dust covered the sky, covering the two figures inside. One had to admit that Shirsusu's strength was very strong. Under Su-yi's ferocious offensive, she actually did not lose for a while. Those ferocious saber lights were all resolved by her. However, in a short period of time, she also changed from the initiating attacker at the very beginning to the passive side being beaten. However, at this time, Su-yi had just exerted his strength. 8 Desolate's fury, violent shadow, shatters 9 nether. Such a loud shout came out of Su-yi's mouth, but only to see Su-yi kick out both feet, blasting towards Shirsusu's sword that followed up. The footprints were bright and as fast as lightning. In an instant, it was as if endless footprints were kicked out. The light gathered and exploded like a small sun. This series of actions was done in one breath, as fast as lightning and as powerful as thunder. Oh, a terrifying aura spread out, incomparably domineering, majestic, and destructive. Such a scene also caused Shirsusu's pair of clear and beautiful eyes to surge with a strange color. The sword light in her hand rose again and could not help but become more domineering and fierce, wanting to block Su-yi's attack. Bang, bang, bang. The footprints and the sword light collided, and the void rumbled. Gorgeous energy light and endless wind blades surged out, and the pressure was impressive. The ground below collapsed, and the void trembled, as if it had suffered the most terrifying destruction. Puff! Under Shirsusu's horrified gaze, the sword light that she shot out was instantly extinguished by the footprints that filled the sky, like a candle flame being trampled down. Then, the footprints landed on her chest, and her body was directly kicked out, and a mouthful of bright red blood spurted out from her red lips. Bang! Her body finally smashed into the rocky ground, causing a huge tremor, and the earth trembled. You crazy woman! After Su-yi finished his move, he instantly arrived in front of Shirsusu with 8 steps, overtaking Cicada. Thief! Shirsusu gritted her teeth and forced herself to slash out with her sword, but Su-yi directly hit her with his palm, and the long sword was sent flying, nailing into the distant mountain rocks, not even reaching the sword hilt. Thief! Thief! Why don't you tell me why I'm a thief? Su-yi blocked Shirsusu's palm once again, and then directly grabbed her collar and scolded her. His heart was filled with anger. Ever since this crazy woman had seen him before, she had been acting like a thief to no end. That's right. In order to take revenge on this woman, Su-yi once stripped her naked and put her in a cave, and also did some tricks to make her mistakenly think that she had lost her chastity. But after such a long time, if she was not a fool, it should not be difficult for her to find out that he was still a virgin. How did he become a thief? The most important thing was that he had found traces of the artifact's spirit beast today. He had used a bottle of spirit liquid to lure it into the cave. Just as he was about to catch it, who would have thought that this woman would suddenly appear and scare the artifact's spirit beast away? He was annoyed. From the beginning, it was completely this woman who tricked him, and later, she repaid his kindness with ingratitude. Chapter 1064. Let me go. Her collar was grabbed by Su Yi's hand. Su struggled, and her dress was torn apart. She waved her hand. Even in such a situation, she still wanted to attack Su Yi. You said I'm a bad person. Su Yi sneered and quickly placed a few restrictive spells on Su's body, sealing her meridians, Dantian, and Sea of Qi. Since you've always treated me as a thief, then I'll do something a thief should do today. Su Yi's voice began to sound ferocious. He really wanted to slap this crazy woman to death. Seeing that he was about to subdue her, Su Yi felt that he had to do something to be worthy of his bottle of spiritual liquid and the title Su gave him. Let me go. What are you doing? I'll never let you go. Upon hearing Su Yi's words, Su's entire body trembled in shock. Only now did she realize that she had been captured by Su Yi. Good. Very good. Su Yi sneered and said, I'd like to see how you won't let me go. As soon as his voice fell, his palms suddenly exerted force. With a Qi La sound, the torn dress in his hand was torn apart. Ah! Su let out an ear-piercing scream, piercing through gold and splitting stone. Su Yi's head was about to explode. She wanted to struggle, but her body's Qi was completely sealed. There was no room for resistance. I'll let you see what a real thief is. Su Yi's throat was dry, but he was still angry at this time. In the end, he couldn't take it anymore. His two hands grabbed down heavily. The touch from his fingertips made Su Yi's lower abdomen burn. Ah! Su screamed even louder and began to cry. She didn't expect this guy to be so bold and dare to do this to her. Hearing Su's screams, Su Yi actually felt an inexplicable sense of excitement. He became even more impolite and directly took advantage of her. Not only that, he even slapped her perfectly round and perky buttocks. Pa! A crisp sound rang out, accompanied by another scream from Su. Not far away, rocks exploded. A bright red handprint appeared on her snow-white skin. I'll let you call me a thief. Su Yi's voice was deep as he slapped her once more, causing her delicate skin to tremble. I told you not to let me go. Pa! Su Yi opened his mouth again and slammed his palm down again. You tricked me. Pa! How dare you bite the hand that feeds you? Pa! I'll let you steal my treasure. Pa! I told you to chop anyone you see with your sword. Pa! Every time Su Yi mentioned Su's crime, it would be accompanied by a crisp voice and Susu screams. But in the end, this scream slowly turned into a sobbing tone. After a while, the place where Su Yi's palm landed was already completely red, which was in stark contrast to the snow-white and sparkling skin. What are you crying for? If you continue to cry, believe it or not, I'll really... Hearing Su's cries, Su Yi felt a headache coming on. He turned her over, glared at her, and said fiercely. Needless to say, this threat was really effective. Susu, who was originally crying loudly, began to sob softly. She sniffled and looked extremely aggrieved. Let's see if you dare to provoke me again. Su Yi stared at Susu and said. The anger in his heart also slowly subsided. At this time, he regained his calm and rationality and couldn't help but realize that he was indeed a little too angry just now. However, now that he had calmed down and looked at the woman in front of him, he felt a burst of dryness in his mouth. Gulp! Su Yi swallowed a mouthful of saliva with difficulty and tried to calm himself down. He solemnly warned himself not to make any mistakes here. He took out a clean set of clothes from his interspatial bag and covered Susu's body. Then, he carried her by the waist and placed her in a cave not far away. After the battle, just now, the cave was slightly damaged, but it wasn't particularly serious, so it could be used as a shelter. The old people always say that you learn from your mistakes. Remember not to provoke me again next time, or I won't be polite. Su leaned Susu against the wall of the cave and looked at her tear-stained face. He felt his scalp tingle and seemed to be at a loss. I'm leaving. You're on your own. After loosening the restriction on her body, Suki didn't think much and directly walked out of the cave. A woman who cried her heart out would always touch a certain softness in a man's heart. He felt that he had taken his revenge and taught Susu a lesson. As long as Susu didn't bother him in the future, he wouldn't find trouble with her. Woo, woo, woo. Seeing as Sui left, Susu, who was no longer a huge threat, cried loudly again. She was pitiful, sad, and wronged. Not long after, the restriction on her body was removed on its own. Susu curled up right away and hugged herself tightly as she cried out loud. After crying for a while, she seemed to have felt that something was wrong. She tore the young man's clothes off her body and threw them on the ground. Then she stomped on them. However, that was not enough to vent her anger. Just as she was about to tear the clothes apart, she suddenly realized that she had no leaves to cover her body. After exclaiming, Susu finally picked up Suyi's clothes and wrapped them tightly around her body, without even brushing the dust off them. After leaving the cave, Susu hurried to the place where she was beaten earlier. She saw that her clothes were torn, but she couldn't find her interspatial bag, even after searching for a while. Needless to say, he must have taken her interspatial bag when he left earlier. Fortunately, her sword was still nailed to a giant rock in the distance. D*MN thief, bad guy, I'll definitely kill you. Susu was still crying. She walked over and pulled out her longsword. Killing intent rose from her body again. Her clothes were already in tatters, so she couldn't wear them anymore. Her interspatial bag was also taken away by the shameless thief, so she could only wear the thief's clothes for the time being. This made Susu feel disgusted, but there was nothing she could do about it. Someone's coming. Suddenly, Susu sensed that there were movements not far away. Without further delay, she quickly tidied up her clothes and held her long sword in her hand. Swish, swish, swish. After a while, a group of people arrived and appeared at the periphery of the battlefield. It's Miss Sure. When the leader of the group saw the woman standing there, he immediately bowed respectfully and introduced himself. I'm Hong Jianxiu from the Tiangang sect. Greetings, Miss Sure. The group of people was a group of 7 or 8 disciples from the Tiangang sect. They had already released the people from the Wild Blade sect and the Absolute Heaven sect. Those people couldn't catch up with Su-yi, so it was useless to bring them along. As Hong Jianxiu spoke, he felt strange in his heart. Why was Susu wearing a man's clothes? This made him very puzzled, but he didn't dare to ask because he had scruples in his heart. Seeing Hong Jianxiu's respectful attitude, Susu glanced at him coldly and didn't say anything. Miss Sure, are you injured? Jianxiu has a good healing pill here. Hong Jianxiu looked carefully and found that Susu's breath was not stable. She was obviously shocked, so he couldn't help but try to curry favor with her. This woman was an outstanding disciple of the Blue Cloud Palace. If he could gain her favor, it would definitely be very beneficial for the Tiangang sect. In addition, she was also a stunning woman. Whether it was her appearance or figure, it was rare in the world. If he could be moved by her at this time. In fact, not to mention being moved, even if he could take the opportunity to get close to her, it would be very good. Thinking of this, Hong Jianxiu only felt that this was an opportunity given by God. However, before he could finish his words, he was interrupted by Susu's cold snort. Oof. Susu stared coldly at Hong Jianxiu. Then she turned around and left, turning a deaf ear to his attitude. Hong Jianxiu had just taken out his interspatial bag with one hand, but he was also stuck halfway. Endless embarrassment appeared on his face, and at the same time, extreme shame and anger were hidden on his face. This was completely like being slapped in the face, and it was unbearable. If it were not for his cultivation being inferior to Susu's and the Blue Cloud Palace's absolute strength, Hong Jinxiu would have directly subdued the woman. Phew. After a moment, Hong Jinxiu let out a long breath. When he saw the figure disappear in the mountain forest, he calmed down. Some things were just thoughts, but if he really wanted to do it, he still had to have the corresponding strength to match it. Only then did Hong Jinxiu look at the battlefield here and let his subordinates investigate a little. They only found a torn woman's clothes and nothing else. Find Su Yi for me. I can kill him and get the treasure at the same time. It's killing two birds with one stone. Hong Jinxiu remembered the serious matter and could not help but say in a deep voice. Since he could not deal with Su, he would vent his anger on the young man from the Bawang sect. Hong Jinxiu did not believe that a disciple from a third-rate force would be able to do anything in front of him. Let's go. Under Hong Jinxiu's lead, the 7 to 8 figures from the Big Dipper sect leaped away and soon disappeared from the place. Along the way, Su had already wiped the tears on her face before the people from the Big Dipper sect appeared, so she did not continue to cry. However, at this time, the 2 places on his chest and back were still faintly hurting. She had only met Su Yi by chance today to take revenge on him and take back her blood demon god-killing sword. Who would have thought that she would end up in such a situation? How long had it been? The young man, who could have been killed with one hand in front of her back then, had grown to such an extent that he could easily defeat her. Most importantly, that thief. He was really that bold toward her. Bastard, shameless thief. Su gritted her teeth so hard that they were about to shatter. She wanted to say something fierce again, but when she thought of Su Yi's current strength, she actually felt powerless. Chapter 1065. Su forcefully suppressed her restless emotions and prepared to continue exploring the secret realm of ominous spirits. Not long after, she came to a small valley and found traces of a battle. There were sword marks and beast fur. After a brief observation, Su knew that some kind of treasure had appeared here. However, someone had taken it away before her. She did not linger, and her figure flashed past. When Su arrived here and landed near a few colorful stones, her figure also appeared on the light screen in the square outside 9-Star City. Hey, isn't that Su? Why is she wearing a man's clothes? Soon, everyone noticed Susu's strange outfit, and someone could not help but exclaim in shock. She has disappeared for a while. It's so strange. What did she go through during this time? Someone else was puzzled and mumbled. Suddenly, a strange laughter sounded. Then the voice said, could it be that she had sex with someone in a ravine and her clothes were torn and tattered? When this voice fell, many people in the surroundings suddenly cast their gazes over. They were glaring angrily, as if they wanted to eat someone. Some people with bad tempers even wanted to draw their swords and slash the person who spoke. Su was the goddess in many people's hearts. How could she be ridiculed by this guy? Everyone admired her, but no one dared to blaspheme her. This guy actually dared to say that their goddess had rolled in the grass with someone else, and even tore her clothes. If this could be tolerated, what else could be tolerated? Seeing the murderous gazes around him, the person who spoke was immediately frightened. He immediately shut his mouth and pretended that he did not say anything. He knew that no one in 9-Star City dared to make a move now. However, once the Alliance conference ended, he would have nowhere to run. Su must have gone through a big battle, and her clothes were torn. She just happened to meet a male disciple and asked him for her clothes. Soon, someone said this, and many people nodded in agreement. They did not want to investigate further because they did not want to think about what their goddess had done. However, the more they thought about it, the harder it was to get rid of the knot in their hearts. Secret realm of ominous spirits. Where else can you find a good person like me in this world? Su Yi sighed as he walked through the forest. He only felt that he was a good young man from head to toe. He was even more of a gentleman than a gentleman who was calm and collected. If it were anyone else, they would have eaten Su up long ago. I hope it won't leave any scars, or it will ruin the beauty. Su Yi muttered. He felt that it would be best if his claw marks could disappear completely from the 2 soft lumps in front of Su. Otherwise, it would be a pity if such a perfect thing was destroyed. But that feeling, it's really good. He scratched the air a few times with his fingers, and there was an expression of reminiscence on his face. He even licked his lips with a look of enjoyment. Even when he thought of that dense forest again, he still felt his mouth go dry and his lower abdomen burn. Pervert, what are you thinking? Suddenly, he scolded himself and expelled all the strange thoughts from his mind. His mind kept going astray. Would that not make him a pervert, like Susu said? I wonder where the tool spirit beast went. He quickly thought of the proper business. It had been almost 2 days since he entered the secret realm of ominous spirits. He had some gains, but they were definitely not abundant. The tool spirit beast that he encountered was definitely a rare and precious treasure. If he could obtain it, he would have struck gold. I'll try the old method. What if it works? Suddenly, he took out a small bottle of spiritual liquid from his interspatial bag and opened the bottle cap, causing a rich fragrance to spread out. Now, he could only make a Hail Mary effort. He only hoped that the tool spirit beast was not far away from him and would step into the pit. However, what Sui did not know was that his actions did not attract the tool spirit beast, but it attracted the attention of a group of people behind him. What rich spiritual chi, and it has an unusual aura. What's this smell? This group of people was Hong Jinxiu and 7 other disciples of the Big Dipper sect. Could it be the aura emitted by the precious treasure? Doesn't that mean that the treasure is nearby? A disciple of the Big Dipper sect was pleasantly surprised. His whole body was spirited, not only because the aura could really make people excited, but also because of the excitement in his heart. If the precious treasure fell into the hands of the Big Dipper sect, he probably would not have a share, but if he made a contribution, he would be greatly rewarded. It doesn't seem like the treasure that the Extreme Heaven sect and the Bloodblade sect are looking for. They said that it might be a tool spirit. This aura seems to be emitted by another kind of treasure, Hong Jinxiu said in a deep voice. His heroic eyebrows were raised like sharp swords. Then let's quickly follow the aura to find it, lest we lose track of it, a disciple quickly reminded. No matter what kind of treasure it was, since it could emit such a rich aura, it was definitely not ordinary. If they could obtain it, it would definitely be a huge gain. Let's go. Hong Jinxiu made a prompt decision. In fact, the 7 disciples quickly left, chasing after the aura. Little beast, you must come out when you smell this aura. I definitely won't hurt you. Follow me, and I can give you great benefits. Even if you don't want to follow me, we can still be good friends. I can give you a lot of spiritual liquid. Along the way, Sui muttered incessantly like a monk chanting scriptures. His mind was filled with thoughts of the little artifact spirit beast. He did not walk fast, and would even occasionally stop to wait, hoping to see the little beast reappear. However, the result disappointed Sui. The little beast did not appear again. The sky slowly darkened, and the roars of beasts echoed in the secret realm. There's someone in front. Suddenly, the sound of fighting came from front. Sui directly jumped up and rushed in that direction. Not long later, a few figures and a barbaric beast appeared in his line of sight. This was a valley. 2 young men and 1 young woman were currently working together to fight an intense battle with a barbaric demonic beast. Flaming winged demonic tiger. So it's this type of barbaric beast. Sui raised his eyebrows and said as he looked in front. In his eyes, the barbaric beast body was extremely majestic. It had a black tiger body, but a pair of wings that were as red as fire. The tiger's claws were like the wind, and it constantly swung them. Violent blades whistled as they attacked the 3 people in front of it like a storm. The flaming winged demonic tiger roared continuously. As it flapped its wings, terrifying flames shot out, as if it could burn everything in the sky. Anything that came into contact with it, regardless of whether it was trees or rocks, was turned into ashes. This flaming winged demonic tiger has probably reached the demon illusionary stage. Looking at the barbaric beast's terrifying attack, Sui could not help but mutter to himself. To him, A demon illusionary stage barbaric beast was no longer a threat to him. With the Origin Supreme technique, even a 9th level demon illusionary stage barbaric beast could be easily subdued. Shang Wanchun, Shui Yuechan, Lu Zhua. Su Yi's gaze moved again, and he recognized the 3 young people. The 2 men were Shang Wanchun from the Boundless Palace and Ruan Zhua from the Jade Tripod clan. The woman had an exquisite figure and an elegant temperament. She was Shui Yuechan from the Purple Shadow Tower. It had to be said that these 3 young experts from second-rate forces were very powerful. With their strength at the 9th level of Yuan Jin stage, they were actually on par with the flaming winged demonic tiger at the 1st level of the demon illusionary stage. It was hard to tell who would win in a short period of time. Whoosh! Waves of terrifying energy were emitted from the flaming winged demonic tiger and the 3 people, setting off a powerful destructive storm that swept across the forest, destroying everything in its path. Endless smoke and dust danced in the air, covering the sky and covering the sun. Waves of energy emitted light, illuminating the dark night as if it was daytime. Retreat. Su Yi did not hide his arrival, and the few people in the battle quickly noticed him. They could not help but retreat at the same time. Seeing the 3 people retreat, the flaming winged demonic tiger also retreated a distance away. Its eyes stared at them, faintly guarding a tall tree behind it. I know, you're Su Yi from the Bawang sect. Since you're here, that's great. The 4 of us will join forces and take down this flaming winged demonic tiger. Then, we'll be able to obtain the heavenly wood nectar that it's guarding. Shang Wanchun wore a brocade robe with a jade belt around his waist. His hair was tall, and he had an extraordinary temperament. He pointed behind the flaming winged demonic tiger and said to Su Yi, when the time comes, the 4 of us will share the heavenly wood nectar equally. I wonder what you think, Su Yi. As he spoke, Shang Wanchun looked at Su Yi with a faint look of anticipation. He knew that this young man's strength was very powerful, and he was definitely not inferior to them. Chapter 1066. However, just as Shang Wanchun finished speaking, before Su Yi could say anything, Ruan Zhua from the Jade Tripod sect looked displeased. He glanced at Su Yi, then looked at Shang Wanchun and said, "The 3 of us found the Zhen wood nectar. It doesn't seem appropriate to let a brat from a third-rate force like him share it equally, right?" He glanced at Su Yi with a faint look of disdain, but he did not show much hostility. It was just a look of disdain. It's very difficult for the 3 of us to defeat the flaming winged demonic tiger. If Su Yi is willing to make a move, we have almost absolute confidence. I think that if we share it equally with him, no one will suffer a loss. Shang Wanchun shook his head and said indifferently, If the 3 of us work harder, we might not be unable to defeat this flaming winged demonic tiger. In addition, I've also informed the disciples of the Jade Tripod sect. Someone should be rushing over soon. When that time comes, we won't need his help. Ruan Zhua snorted coldly. In Ruan Zhua's opinion, Su Yi only came from an insignificant small force. Before this alliance conference, no one had even heard of the Bawang sect's name. Calling him a third-rate force was already praising him enough. And such a youth, no matter how talented or strong he was, so what? Without a powerful sect as a foundation, he was still a rootless duckweed and would not be able to go far. As for whether he could stand out in this Mystic Realms test and be taken in as a disciple by a certain force, all of this would depend on whether he could survive to the end. Before entering this place, some people had sworn to kill Su Yi in this mystic realm. Ruan Zhua naturally knew about it. I think young Master Shang is right. The 4 of us will work together to take down the flaming winged demonic tiger and then split the Zhen wood nectar equally. It's fair and reasonable. At this moment, Shui Yuechan from the Purple Shadow Tower opened her red lips and said softly. Shang Wanchun nodded in agreement. So it's the Zhen wood nectar. As the 3 of them conversed, Su Yi heard everything, but he did not respond. His gaze flickered as he looked behind the flaming winged devil tiger. There was a large tree that required 2 people to wrap their arms around it. The tree trunk was covered with strange burls, and there was even juice dripping from these burls. 30 feet above the ground, there was a hole the size of a wash basin. He had also heard of this great wood nectar and knew that it was possible to extract its juice from the hole. When consumed, the nectar had a certain nourishing effect on the soul, and its effects could be said to be extraordinary. Knowing that it was such a treasure, Yi was naturally tempted. After all, items that could nourish the soul were not easy to find. They were much rarer than ordinary treasures. I don't agree with this. It's better to wait here for the disciples of my sect to come. It's better than giving the treasure to others. Ruanjua snorted and said with a flick of his sleeve. Seeing his attitude, Shang Wanshan's face was filled with displeasure as he frowned. Just as he was about to say something, he heard Su Yi's laughter. Since you don't welcome me, then I'll go and get this great wood nectar by myself. Su Yi smiled at Shang Wanshan and Shui Yuechan. He did not even look at Ruanjua as he walked towards the flaming winged devil tiger. He had a good impression of the two disciples from Boundless Palace and Purple Shadow Tower, especially Shang Wanshan. His temperament was like his appearance, quite magnanimous and elegant. However, when it came to treasures, Su Yi did not care about that. He could not wait for someone to reject him so that he could openly take it for himself. Brother Su Yi, seeing Su Yi striding away, Shang Wanshan stretched out his hand as if he wanted to say something. However, looking at the young man's back, he had a strange feeling that the young man was really confident. What an arrogant kid. You actually want to fight the flaming winged devil tiger alone. I'd like to see how you'll die. Looking at Su Yi walking past him, Ruanjua sneered and said ferociously, that was the flaming winged devil tiger, a true first-level demon void stage barbaric demon beast. Even though it had just broken through, it was much stronger than an ordinary second-level origin stage human. Only he, Wang Chun, and Shui Yuchan were from second-tier factions. They were the most outstanding cultivators among the younger generation. Their strength was extraordinary, and they had many trump cards to rely on. Otherwise, if 3 ordinary 9th-level origin stage martial artists were here, they would only be crushed by the flaming winged devil tiger. Who the hell was that Su Yi? He actually dared to go up alone. He was definitely trying to tear them apart. Arrogant kid. Ruanjua sneered. He originally did not have any enmity towards Su Yi. He only looked down on him. However, he really wanted to see him die under the flaming winged devil tiger's claws and be swallowed into the tiger's stomach. He watched as the young man's figure walked further and further away, getting closer and closer to the flaming winged devil tiger. It went from 10 feet to 20 feet, then to 10 feet. Even though there was quite a distance between them, Ruanjua could still hear the low roar coming from the flaming winged devil tiger's mouth. At the same time, the tiger's body gradually crouched down. Its wings flapped lightly, as if it was about to pounce. It could suddenly attack and tear the young man into pieces at any time. He was getting closer and closer to the flaming winged devil tiger. Only 10 steps left. 7 steps. 5 steps, Shang Wanshan called out softly. However, it was not appropriate for him to go forward and stop Yishuan. The flaming winged demon's body was stretched taut to the extreme, like a large bow that was about to shoot out. However, in the next moment, an aura suddenly rose from Su Yi's body. It was as if a powerful barbaric beast had suddenly descended. It carried a dense demonic aura. However, it was demonic but not evil as it directly spread out. Then, under the shocked gazes of Shang Wanshan, Shui Yuechan, and Ruanjua, the flaming winged devil tiger went limp under the aura. The aura that it had gathered with great difficulty was instantly gone. Then, the 3 young disciples from the second-rate forces saw the young man casually walk past the flaming winged devil tiger and went straight to the tree behind it. He did not even look back. How is this possible? Such an outcome caused the 3 of them to drop their jaws. It was as if they had seen a ghost. They could not believe it. The young man's footsteps, he actually walked past it just like that? That flaming winged devil tiger. Ruanjua opened his mouth as he felt his face start to burn. He could not understand the situation at all. Why would the flaming winged devil tiger lie on the ground and not get up? It was as if it was too frightened. Beast taming technique. This must be a beast taming technique. Although I don't know the specifics, his technique is definitely very brilliant. Soon, Shang Wangchun, Shui Yuechan, and Ruanjua all came to this conclusion. They only felt that Su Yi had mastered an incredible beast-taming technique that could subdue the flaming winged devil tiger. However, to be able to suppress someone of a higher level and make the flaming winged devil tiger behave so obediently, how powerful would it be? Until now, the three of them still felt that Su Yi's cultivation base was similar to theirs. They were all close to the peak of the 9th level Yuanjin stage. This was because they did not dare to imagine that a 17-year-old young man had already left them in the dust and stepped into the Origin Void stage. Moreover, he was at the 2nd level of the Origin Void stage. No, we can't let the great wood nectar fall into his hands. Suddenly, Ruanjua shouted in a deep voice. His figure instantly pounced forward as his origin energy rapidly formed in his palm. Looking at the young man who was about to reach the tree, he viciously slapped his palm over. "Stop him!" He did not even turn his head as he only said this one sentence. Then, with a roar, the flaming winged devil tiger that was originally lying on the ground in fear suddenly leaped into the air. Its pair of sharp claws that seemed capable of tearing the heavens and earth apart instantly stretched out. From Shang Wangqin and Shui Yuechan's point of view, this scene was as if Ruanjua had pounced forward and directly delivered himself to the flaming winged devil tiger's claws. In an instant, the claws came into contact with Ruanjua's chest. Seeing this, Ruanjua's soul almost left his body. How could he still care about Su Yi? He changed the direction of his palm and collided with the tiger's claws. A huge force burst forth from the collision between the palm and the tiger's claws. Borrowing this powerful force, Ruanjua flipped backward and quickly retreated to Shang Wangqin and Shui Yuechan's side. Roar! The flaming winged devil tiger roared in a low voice. It did not pursue and lay on the ground again as it stared coldly at Ruanjua. The pair of deep tiger eyes moved horizontally, releasing a dense sense of ferocity that caused one's heart to palpitate. Ugh! After Ruanjua stabilized himself, he felt a sweetness in his throat that he forcefully swallowed back. His face was extremely pale in an instant. On his chest, there were a few claw marks that were so deep that one could see his bones. Fresh blood dripped from it, making him look miserable. If he had not reacted in time and dodged quickly, his stomach would have been split open. What a powerful flaming winged devil tiger! Shang Wangqin and Shui Yuechan's eyes flickered. The flaming winged devil tiger was extremely powerful, causing Ruanjua to be heavily injured in just one attack. Quick attack! The heavenly wood nectar is going to be taken away by that brat. Even though he was heavily injured, Ruanjua did not forget to shout at Shang Wangqin and Shui Yuechan. However, the two of them completely ignored him. They just quietly looked ahead, their eyes still filled with shock. In fact, not only did Shang Wangqin and Shui Yuechan not want to attack Su Yi, but they also knew that even if they attacked now, they would not be able to stop Su Yi. As long as the flaming winged devil tiger blocked them and delayed them, Su Yi would have enough time to take away the heavenly wood nectar in the tree hole. Seeing that the two of them were unmoved, Ruanjua gritted his teeth, but there was nothing he could do. When he looked at the young man again, there was a thick murderous intent in his eyes. An unknown Boang sect disciple, a brat who was still wet behind the ears, actually took away the treasure right under his eyes. Chapter 1067. Su Yi did not care about the changes in the gazes of the people behind him, nor did he care about how interesting their expressions were. He walked to the side of the thick tree and directly climbed up to the tree hole. Heavenly wood nectar! Filled with joy, Su Yi stuck his head out into the tree hole and began to observe. This kind of tree that could produce heavenly wood nectar was different from ordinary trees. A part of the trunk of this tree was hollow. This tree grew in a place rich in spiritual energy and constantly absorbed the energy between heaven and earth. Eventually, it would turn into a miraculous liquid with miraculous effects. In terms of the root, it was similar to spiritual herbs. The only difference was that this tree only had effects on the liquid. Just as He stuck his head in, he discovered that there was a misty light inside. At first, He thought that it was the spiritual light emitted by the heavenly wood nectar. When he saw what was inside, he froze on the tree trunk. What is He doing? From Shang Wanchen and Shui Yuechan's point of view, Suyi's neck was stuck in the tree hole and his body was hanging outside. This made them feel a little strange. He could have grabbed the heavenly wood nectar, but why didn't he do anything? In fact, what they did not know was that there was no heavenly wood nectar in the tree hole. There was only a pair of eyes looking at Sui. The eyes were sparkling and extremely bright, like the stars in the night sky. When it saw Sui, it even blinked twice. Obviously, the owner of the eyes was also stunned by the head that suddenly popped in. It's actually you. Sui, on the other hand, was only stunned for a moment before a look of ecstasy appeared on his face. At this time, the one that was looking at him was not a human, nor was it a barbaric beast. It was the little spirit beast that Sui saw before. Great, I actually met it here again. Sui's heart was bursting with joy. What a fruitless search. He had spent so much effort to find this little guy, but he had run away. Who would have thought that he would reappear at this time? Looking at the scene in the tree hole, it was obvious that the heavenly wood nectar had been eaten by the little beast. There was nothing left. Come with me. I will treat you well. Sui revealed a smile and said to the little beast. As he spoke, he stretched out his hand. There was no yuan qi fluctuation in his palm, as he was afraid that he would scare the little beast away. Roar. Only then did the little beast realize that the human above it was the one who gave it the heavenly wood nectar. However, the little beast was still flustered. It had never let a human get so close to it before. Seeing Sui's hand, the little beast let out a low roar, like a tiger at dragon's roar. Soon after, a small dragon claw reached out from under the turtle shell and grabbed the interior of the tree hole. The seemingly small dragon claw was like the sharpest weapon in the world. In an instant, it tore a small hole in the tree, causing debris to fly everywhere. This small hole was just enough for the little beast to pass through. Just before Sui's hand landed on it, the little beast passed through with a whoosh. Don't run. Sui panicked and immediately jumped down from the tree. He saw a dazzling ball of light flying in the dark night. Without thinking, he quickly chased after it. Encountering the little beast again, Sui did not want to let it escape again. It represented a treasure. Soon, one beast and one human passed through an extremely far distance and disappeared into the night. Until this scene, Shang Wanchen, Shui Yuechan, and Ruan Zhuo were still in a daze. Even the flaming winged demonic tiger did not understand the situation. Roar, roar. When the flaming winged demonic tiger flew into the air and saw the hole in the tree hole, it roared with grief and anger. It seems like that little thing has already ruined the great wood nectar. After a long time, Shang Wanchen finally realized this fact. What was that just now? Shui Yuechan frowned and muttered to herself in confusion. They did not see the little beast's appearance clearly. They only saw Sui chasing after it, and naturally felt that it was not an ordinary creature. Let's go and take a look. Shang Wanchen called out. The essence qi under his feet materialized as he stepped into the air and chased after them. Shui Yuechan thought for a while. Then she followed Shang Wanchen's footsteps with her graceful figure. Only Ruan Zhuo and the flaming winged demonic tiger were left. Roar! Sui's origin supreme technique dissipated, and the flaming winged demonic tiger finally relaxed. Looking at the person who attacked it, it slowly stretched out its tiger claws and slowly approached. Bastard, I'll pull out your tendons and bones in the future. Ruan Zhuo cursed loudly and retreated at an extremely fast speed. The flaming winged demonic tiger watched him leave and turned back to look at the big tree. In the end, It did not chase after him. Instead, it returned to the bottom of the tree trunk and circled around with a pained expression in its eyes. On the other side, the 7 or 8 people from the Heavenly Dipper sect followed the strange aura. However, at a certain moment, all the aura suddenly stopped. Just as everyone was puzzled, they came face to face with Ruanjua, who had retreated. "Isn't this Ruanjua of the Jade Tripod sect? Why are you so seriously injured? It seems like you were tortured by a barbaric beast." Hong Jianxiu chuckled and looked at the young man in front of him. "Hong Jianxiu, what do you want?" Ruanjua's face was as dark as water. When he saw the large group of Heavenly Dipper sect disciples beside Hong Jianxiu, he immediately became cautious. If he fought with the other party here, with his current state, it was very likely that he would die here. He was very angry in his heart. It was one thing for him to not obtain the Great Wood Nectar, but he had actually suffered such serious injuries. He wanted to find a place to heal his injuries first, but he actually met Hong Jianxiu of the Heavenly Dipper sect. Although there was no deep hatred between them, if the other party had ill intentions and killed him here, the Jade Tripod sect would be helpless. "What are you nervous about?" Hong Jianxiu sneered and said disdainfully, "I don't have time to deal with you. I just want to ask you one thing. Did you see Su Yi of the Bawang sect?" Su Yi chased after the little beast. As long as he found him, he would be able to kill Su Yi and have a chance to obtain a supreme treasure. This matter was much more important than fighting with Ruanjua. Hong Jianxiu did not want to waste time here. "Su Yi." Ruanjua was stunned at first. Then a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. He said to Hong Jianxiu. He went in that direction. Not long after he left, he was chasing after a strange thing. Shang Wangchen and Shui Yuechan also followed him. Hearing this, Hong Jianxiu's eyes lit up. It was as if he had heard great news in his heart. He had only asked casually, but he did not expect Ruanjua to really see it. It just so happened that the aura they were chasing had been cut off, and they did not know if the so-called treasure in their imagination was real or fake. Now that they had news of Su Yi and the traces of the little beast, this was simply an opportunity that the heavens had arranged for their Heavenly Dipper sect. However, the more troublesome thing was that Shang Wangchen and Shui Yuechan had also followed. If these two people made a move, it would be quite troublesome. "Ruanjua, you have to be careful. Don't be eaten by the barbaric beasts in this myriad spirits mystic realm." Hong Jianxiu chuckled again. Then, he waved at the 8 disciples beside him and said, "Let's go." The group quickly disappeared into the forest, following the direction Ruanjua had pointed out. In fact, they themselves didn't know that ever since they met Sang Ming of the Darking Gate, the mysterious aura of the treasure, and now, when they met Ruanjua, they had been led by the nose by Su Yi. They didn't know where they would end up. What was even more strange was that Su Yi did not know any of this. He did not know that someone was looking for him and the little beast in the mystic realm. "Little thing, don't run." Su Yi eagerly chased after the little beast. It could be said that he had used up a lot of energy. He took out a bottle of spiritual liquid to lure the little beast. Needless to say, this move was quite effective. It could really attract the little beast's attention, causing it to be unable to escape as quickly. However, it was extremely difficult for Su Yi to catch up to the little beast. Su Yi also knew that Shang Wangchen and Shui Yuechan were chasing after him. However, the two of them would definitely not be able to catch up with him. Su Yi wanted to run a little further and find an opportunity to lure the little beast to a secluded place so that it would not be able to escape. After running for a while, Su Yi finally found a suitable cave. He placed the spiritual liquid in the cave and then pretended to leave. He hid in the dark and quietly observed. However, the little beast seemed to have been shocked by the last time. Facing the temptation of the spiritual liquid, it was actually in a dilemma. It stood in the same place for a long time and did not take any further action. Go in, the spiritual liquid is in the cave." Su Yi, who was hiding in the distance, could not wait any longer. Seeing the little beast licking its lips greedily, but with a lingering fear, his heart felt like it was being scratched by 100 claws. Yu Qijing hashtag version H chapter 1 section 1 inch the blink of an eye. Half an hour had passed. However, the little beast did not stop looking around. Even if it walked towards the cave, it would only take a step out occasionally. That Shang Wanchen and Shui Yuechan should be here soon. There's no time. Go in quickly. Su Yi mumbled to himself, but did not dare to make sound. He could only hide in the corner and worry about nothing. He did not want others to see him subduing the little beast. That would not benefit him at all. Hence, the best outcome would be to subdue the little beast before Shang Wanchen and Shui Yuechan arrived. Then, he would quickly leave. However, if there was no other choice, Su Yi could only settle for the second best. As long as he could subdue the little beast, it would be fine. Little thing, go in quickly. Su Yi kept mumbling to himself. At the same time, he retreated quite a distance to ensure that when he saw the little beast, he would be able to block Shang Wanchen and Shui Yuechan in advance so that they would not disturb the little beast. Chapter 10:68. Swoosh swoosh. Not long after, Shang Wanchen and Shui Yuechan stepped on the treetops and quickly arrived. Sensing their movements, Su Yi immediately leaped onto the treetops and stopped the two of them. Under Su Yi's signal, Shang Wanchen and Shui Yuechan cooperated and did not make any movements. Instead, they moved stealthily towards the cave. When they saw the appearance of the little beast, the two young experts from the second-rate forces opened their mouths wide in disbelief. With their knowledge, they could naturally tell that the little beast's item was definitely extraordinary and very precious. They could feel a unique aura in the air that made them feel refreshed and comfortable. It was coming from the cave. It was not hard for Shang Wanchen and Shui Yuechan to guess that it was Su Yi's method to lure the little beast. Go in, go in. Seeing Su Yi's mouth opening and closing as he kept muttering, Shang Wanchen and Shui Yuechan also started to look forward to seeing the little beast enter the cave. Under their gazes, the little beast with the four spirits' coexisting body was still dawdling around the cave. It wanted to go in, but it was also extremely afraid. Su Yi, Shang Wanchen, and Shui Yuechan were very patient as they stared at the little beast from behind a dense tree. At this moment, on the way that Su Yi and the rest came, Hong Jinxiu and the rest from the Heavenly Dipper sect also quickly came over. It's that aura again. It seems that the treasure has appeared again. The disciples of the Heavenly Dipper sect were all surprised and excited. This aura could very well represent some kind of treasure. Hide all of your aura and try not to make any movements. This time, we can't miss this opportunity. Hong Jinxiu's eyes lit up as he secretly swore. The group speed increased again as they chased after the aura. It's moving, it's moving. It's going in. In front of the cave, Su Yi and the rest waited for a long time. Finally, the little beast could not resist the temptation of the spiritual liquid and slowly walked towards the entrance of the cave. It looked back 3 times with every step and was extremely cautious. Seeing this, Su Yi's attention was focused to the extreme. Shang Wanchen and Shui Yuechan also held their breaths. No one dared to act rashly. At such a crucial moment, even the slightest movement could scare the little beast away. Get ready. Seeing the little beast enter the cave, Su Yi's body tensed up as he was ready to make a move. However, just as he was about to jump down from the tree and sneak towards the cave, a soft sound came from behind him. Hearing this soft exclamation, Su Yi's heart screamed again. However, this wasn't the end. When the soft exclamation sounded, several young men cried out in surprise at the same time. Look, isn't that the little beast discovered by the Mad Blade sect and the Absolute Heavens sect? It's really an artifact spirit. It's amazing. Catch it. Don't let it run away. Quick. These voices came quickly, like the wind and lightning, and in the blink of an eye, they approached the tree where Su Yi and the rest were. They were none other than the people from the Tiangang sect, led by Hong Jinxiu. This group of people all suppressed their aura, and Su Yi's attention was completely focused on the little beast. So when they came close, Su Yi did not immediately notice them. 8 figures streaked across the sky, and no longer restrain themselves. All of them burst out with chi as they rushed towards the cave like a swarm of bees. Their target was the little critter. At this moment, Hong Jinxiu and the others were all overjoyed. It turned out that what the people from the Wild Blade sect and the Heaven-Severing sect said was true. This little beast was definitely an artifact spirit that only a powerful artifact could have. If they could get it, it would be a great benefit for the entire Tiangang sect. At that time, not only the young master Hong Jinxiu, but all the disciples who participated in this operation would be rewarded by the sect. This kind of good thing made them excited to the extreme. However, in contrast to the excitement of these 8 people, He opened his mouth at this time and cursed loudly. "I'll F***CK, your mother's balls." The fury in his heart surged to his head with a whoosh, but he still suppressed his anger and rushed out, running towards the cave. However, it was really too late. When the little beast heard Hong Jinxiu and the others talking, it had already realized that something was wrong. This time, it directly picked up the spiritual liquid bottle placed in the cave, spread its wings, and flapped out a blazing flame. It quickly rushed out, like a flash of lightning, and once again plunged into the bushes. "Don't run." He hurriedly chased. "Quickly chase. Don't let it run away. You must catch it. This is a once-in-a-lifetime benefit. We're going to be rich this time." Several people from the Tiangang sect did not realize that they could not catch up with the little beast and were still in extreme excitement, shouting one by one. On Hong Jinxiu's handsome face, there was also an uncontrollable excitement. Naturally, he saw Yi appear and even ran in front of them to chase after him. However, Hong Jinxiu did not care. At this time, the treasure was more important. If he wanted to kill Yi, there would be plenty of opportunities in the future, so it was better to catch the little beast first. We failed the last step. At the back, Shang Wanchen and Shui Yuchan also jumped out. They looked at each other, shook their heads, and said regretfully. They saw that the little beast had already entered the cave, and as long as they carefully sneaked over, there was a high chance that they could catch it. But now the Tiangang sect's group had ruined their plan. Shang Wanchen and Shui Yuchan felt that it was a pity, and they also wanted to see what the item behind the little beast was. Even if it did not belong to them, it would be good to see it. "Let's follow and see." Shang Wanchen did not delay, and together with Shui Yuchan, they chased after Yi, Hong Jinxiu, and the others. F***CK. After Yi chased for a distance, he had completely lost sight of the little beast and could not help but curse. He had prepared the spiritual liquid, waited for so long, and waited patiently with the goal of capturing the little beast. But now, someone had inexplicably messed up his plans. Such a scene was so familiar, and it was so similar to the situation when Shirsusu suddenly appeared. He had already used 2 bottles of spiritual liquid, but the little beast still managed to escape. Every time he failed, it made Yi furious, and he was on the verge of exploding. It escaped, it's gone. How did the little beast run so fast? It disappeared in an instant. What a pity we did not catch it. We underestimated it. We should have been more careful. Why don't we continue to search? There will be a chance to find it again. The people from the Big Dipper sect quickly passed by Yi's position. Their eyes were filled with sighs, looking extremely regretful. It escaped. Hong Jinxiu's eyes flickered, and he clapped his hands in frustration. He did not even look at Yi, and did not think that this young man's speed was much faster than theirs. Right now, Hong Jinxiu's mind was filled with the little beast. But now, he did not know where to go, so he could only give up for now. Young sect leader. At this moment, a Tiangang sect's disciple finally calmed down and came to Hong Jinxiu's side, using his eyes to signal him to look to the side. As far as the eye could see, the Bawang sect's young man was standing on top of a tree, frowning, and his aura fluctuated faintly, as if he was brewing anger. Seeing this, Hong Jinxiu only chuckled and turned to face Yi and said lightly, "The big fish escaped, but there is still a small fish here, not bad." However, before he could finish his sentence, The rest of his words were directly rebutted by Sue. Are you guys crazy? Without even making a sound, you suddenly jumped out. Sue, he had nowhere to vent his anger at this time, and only wanted to scold people to vent his anger. He had been tormented for so long, and had used all his methods. Once he was ruined, twice, and he was about to go berserk. Brat you! Hong Jianxiu choked, and his face instantly turned ugly. He did not expect that Sue he would actually dare to scold him in front of him. Who was this brat? He actually dared to do this. Was he not afraid of death? You what you? I'm your grandpa. Sue he cursed loudly, but still did not vent his anger, and glared fiercely at Hong Jianxiu. Su Yi's angry words caused Hong Jianxiu and all the disciples of the Tiangang sect to turn purple. They could not believe that this brat actually dared to speak to them like this. Su Yi, you have guts. Hong Jianxiu's face darkened as he coldly stared at Su Yi and said, I'd like to see if you'll still have such guts when you're facing death. As he spoke, the aura on Hong Jianxiu's body began to rise. He slowly pulled out the long sword in his hand, and the invisible aura grew. The nearby forest was illuminated by the night sky. Be careful, don't let this brat escape. After Hong Jianxiu began to move, the remaining 7 people of the Tiangang sect also surrounded him. With Su Yi as the center, they formed a pincer formation. A murderous aura spread out from every Big Dipper sect's disciple's body. A cold smile surfaced in their eyes. Oh, is that so? Facing this situation, Su Yi's eyebrows suddenly rose, and he said in surprise, Could it be that you want to kill me? This was what surprised Su Yi the most. He did not expect that after his good deed was ruined by Hong Jianxiu and the others. Not only did the other party not feel the slightest bit of guilt, they even wanted to kill him with just a few words. This was a little unreasonable. I've said it before, the big fish, the artifact spirit, ran away, but you can barely be considered a small fish. Since we met in the secret realm of ominous spirits, there's no reason to let you live. Chapter 1069. You want to kill me with just a few small fries? Su Yi was stunned for a moment before a cold smirk appeared on his face. He then realized that they had been targeting him for a long time. However, he did not know why these people would want to kill him when he had no dealings with the Tiangang sect. However, Su Yi was not too bothered by this. He knew that none of the young disciples who had entered the secret realm of ominous spirits would be his match. Moreover, the Tiangang sect was just a small second-rate force that was not even worth mentioning. However, the moment he said that, the surrounding disciples of the Tiangang sect burst into laughter as though they had heard the funniest joke in the world. What? Did I hear wrongly? What did this kid just say? He said we were small fries? We were just small fries in his eyes. Ha! Who gave him the guts to say such things? He doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Isn't he afraid that the wind will cut his tongue? Who does this brat think he is? He's just a nobody from the Overlord sect, yet he dares to speak so arrogantly. Ha ha! Do you think we're the 7-Star Sword School, or the Gimdeo sect, or the Sunblaze sect, or the Green Sanctuary sect? What arrogance! I almost died from the smell. The few of them laughed so hard that they were swaying back and forth. Some of them even felt that they were about to pass out. They did not know if they should say that Su Yi was ignorant or arrogant. Oomph, you are really arrogant. It seems like those third-rate forces have inflated your ego to such an extent. The corners of Hong Jianxiu's mouth twitched as he lightly raised his sword, and light flickered on it as he looked at Su Yi and said with a savage voice, It's good to let you die knowing the reason. We're members of the Heavenly Dipper sect, and we're not something that the Golden Saber sect and 7-Star Sword sect can compare to. Don't think that you can look down on everyone just because you have defeated a bunch of small fries. Today, I will teach you a good lesson. As he spoke, the way Hong Jianxiu looked at Su Yi had changed. Originally, he thought that they would need to use their true strength to deal with this brat, but he never thought that he would be so arrogant and conceited. Thus, Hong Jianxiu instantly underestimated Su Yi once more, and he sneered endlessly in his heart. The Gimdeo sect, the Seven-Star Sword School, the Sunblaze sect, and the Green Sanctuary sect had been dealt with so miserably by this brat. It could only be said that they were too useless. However, their Heavenly Dipper sect was a second-rate power. It was not something those unbearable sects could compare to. Hong Jinxiu from the Heavenly Dipper sect? He didn't care about the laughter at all. He stared at the young man in the lead and knew who he was. Since you know that this is our young sect master, why don't you just surrender? We can consider giving you a quick death. A Heavenly Dipper sect disciple stepped forward and pointed his sword at Su-yi. The rest of the people stared at him as if they were looking at a dead man. Surrender? Su-yi chuckled and said casually, "Why don't the 7 of you chop off Hong Jinxiu's head and give it to me? I can also consider giving the 7 of you a quick death. How about that?" Arrogant brat. A Heavenly Dipper sect disciple shouted coldly. In the eyes of these disciples, the young man from the Bawang sect's smiling face was extremely repulsive. At the same time, he was like a huge idiot who didn't know that he was about to die. Young sect master, let's not talk nonsense with this brat anymore. Let me teach him a lesson about the immensity of heaven and earth. At this moment, another Heavenly Dipper sect disciple stepped forward and sneered at Su-yi. Hong Jinxiu didn't say anything and only nodded his head lightly. The disciple who spoke was very powerful among his peers in the Heavenly Dipper sect. He was about to step into the 9th level of Yuanzhen realm. It could be said that he was extraordinarily talented. All along, Hong Jinxiu's understanding of Su-yi was based on what he had heard. However, for such a young man to become the champion of the Middle States Sacred Martial Arts Conference and create such a huge commotion in the Chaos region, he must have some real skills. No matter how young he was, Hong Jinxiu would not underestimate him. Now that a disciple had stepped forward, it was a good opportunity for Hong Jinxiu to test Su-yi's true strength. Brat, today I will show you the strength of the Heavenly Dipper sect. It is not something that the Gimdeo sect or the 7-Star Sword School can compare with. Seeing that Hong Jinxiu had agreed, the disciple immediately shouted and charged forward with his sword. A dazzling sword light shot out in front of him and turned into a terrifying dragon. It opened its huge mouth and bit towards Su-yi. Ayo. Look at the original version equals chapter H. The dragon's body moved across the sky. As it twisted its body, it crushed the void and made a rumbling sound. Its momentum was vast. The power of the peak of the 8th level of Yuanzhen realm burst out in the void. It was like a vast ocean accompanied by the dragon's movement. Raging waves surged and were about to swallow Su-yi's body. However, the young man from the Bawang sect did not take any action. He just stood there quietly and did not move. Is this brat scared out of his wits? He doesn't even know how to resist? I was wondering how strong he was to be able to beat up a few third-rate sections. Now it seems that it was all a rumor. He's just a frog at the bottom of a well. It's normal for him to be scared out of his wits when he sees a real powerhouse. We don't have to do anything. This will definitely be enough for that brat to suffer. The surrounding disciples of the Tiangang sect sneered again. In their eyes, Su-yi seemed to be in a daze and did not react at all. In their opinion, although this young man was famous, he had never experienced a real life and death battle. Not to mention what he had done in the Chaos region, just dealing with a group of third-rate forces, just the fact that Su-yi had won the championship of the Central State Sacred Martial Arts Conference was meaningless in front of the Heavenly Dipper sect. It was said that the saint of the Sacred Mountain, Naren Ruyu, was only about 18 or 19 years old. It was not hard to understand why he was defeated by Su-yi. If Naren Ruyu were to come in front of the Tiangang sect at this moment, wouldn't he be defeated with a slap? No matter how good one's talent was, without enough time to grow, it was all empty talk. The age gap of more than 10 years was enough to make even the strongest talent useless. Ayo! Under everyone's gazes, the dragon roared in the void and appeared a few feet in front of Su-yi. It was also at this moment that they saw the young man from the Bawang sect slowly raise a hand and hurriedly clench it into a fist to meet the attack. It's too late. The disciples of the Tian sect sneered, including Hong Jinxiu, who felt extremely disdainful. Su Yi only realized at this moment that it was impossible to change the situation. Everyone looked on coldly, waiting for the young man's figure to be swallowed by the dragon formed by the sword light. These disciples of the Tian sect were full of anticipation. However, in the next moment, their sneers all froze on their faces and gradually became stiff. Under their gazes, the young man's fist swung out at an extremely terrifying speed and collided with the dragon without any fancy moves. As for the resplendent flood dragon formed by the sword light, it was like a clay chicken or a pottery dog, disintegrating under the fist that did not have any yuan qi fluctuations. In the blink of an eye, the young man's fist smashed the sword light in front of him like a hot knife through butter. It was as easy as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. There was not the slightest bit of stagnation. Terrifying, shattering energy shot out in the void, like a rain of light, magnificent and gorgeous. In such a gorgeous and beautiful scene, Su Yi's fist drove straight in. It was strong and unparalleled. First, it blasted away all the energy, and then the long sword in the disciple's hand was broken piece by piece. Finally, the fist went straight to the root of the problem and brazenly smashed into the chest of the Tian sect disciple. Puff! A muffled sound was heard, accompanied by a spurt of blood in the void. The body of the Tian sect disciple was like a kite with a broken string, directly flying backward. Blood spurted out from his body like a fountain and floated in the void. Bang! The disciple's body drew a straight line and violently smashed into a big tree behind him, breaking the tree in half and sending debris flying everywhere. The remaining people of the Tian sect all watched as the figure flew far away and crashed to the ground. There was no sound. No one knew whether he was alive or dead. Looking at this scene, the smiles of the 7 people, including Hong Jinxiu, froze. It was as if they were cramping, and their expressions could not be erased. Each of them widened their eyes in disbelief. Senior Brother Ma, after a long time, a few disciples of the Tian sect exclaimed, "How can he be so strong?" Someone swallowed a mouthful of saliva fiercely, as if his whole body was stunned, and he murmured. None of the Tian sect members present expected that Su Yi of the Bawang sect would be so strong. One should know that their senior brother Ma was at the peak of LV8 Yuanjin stage and was one of the top figures among his peers in the Tian sect. Even if senior brother Ma had underestimated his opponent and did not use his full strength, he should not have been defeated so easily. His attack, which was launched later but arrived first, had actually defeated senior brother Ma's powerful sword light. Among all of them, perhaps only the young sect leader could do such a thing. That's right, it was only possible, but whether or not he could succeed was another matter altogether. Moreover, the young man had just used his fist to fight against the sword, and there was no fluctuation of yuan qi. What a terrifying physical body. Hong Jinxiu's throat moved as he spoke in shock and disbelief. It seemed that this Bawang sect's Su Yi was indeed not simple. With only the strength of his physical body, he had defeated the attack of a peak LV8 Yuan Jun stage martial artist, and even severely injured his opponent. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. At this point, no matter how much Hong Jinxiu felt that Su Yi was a bumpkin, he did not dare to underestimate him anymore. Chapter 1070. Senior Brother Ma is dead. A Big Dipper sect disciple ran out to check on Senior Brother Ma's condition and reported to the others. Hearing this, the remaining 7 people were horrified. Su Yi's attack was too fast. He killed Senior Brother Ma in a crushing manner. Such strength made Hong Jinxiu and the others solemn. This kid is too powerful. Let's attack together. I want him to die without a burial place today. Hong Jinxiu stared at Su Yi and said in a deep voice, "No one would have thought that a peak level 8 Yuan Jun realm martial artist would not even be qualified to resist Su Yi. Yes, young sect leader. After Hong Jianxiu's order, the rest of the Big Dipper sect disciples were on high alert. They raised their swords and sabers and pointed them at Sui. Waves of ferocious energy were emitted from their bodies. Light bloomed and the void trembled. Is this the strength of a second-rate forces disciple? Seems like this is all there is to it. Sui was not nervous at all. He curled his lips and said indifferently, Yuan Jun stage cultivators were no longer a challenge to him. Kid, don't boast so shamelessly. Don't think that we will continue to be careless. This time, we will tear you into pieces. A Big Dipper sect disciple said coldly. However, he did not sound as confident as he did before. Is that so? Sui sneered and said, I will still say the same thing. If you cut off Hong Jianxiu's head, I will consider letting you go. His face was still not looking good. It was not only because of these Big Dipper sect disciples, but also because they had scared away the artifact spirit. Don't talk nonsense with him. Attack together and kill him. Hong Jianxiu's face changed as he shouted. With that said, 7 figures pounced out at the same time, charging towards Sui. I haven't settled the score with you for scaring away the artifact spirit. How dare you provoke me? Sui sneered and said slowly, You can't blame anyone else for dying here today. You can only blame yourselves for being blind. You shouldn't have brought trouble upon yourselves. When he said this, Sui directly stepped into the air. His feet continued to move in the void. Every step he took brought with it an extremely mysterious will, causing his figure to be like a ghost, drifting erratically. None of the swords and sabers from the Heavenly Dipper sect could touch his body. That youth passed through the rain of swords without a single drop touching his body. PFFF. As Sui executed the Fuyao's 100 transformation steps, he calmly struck out with his palm. With a single strike, he instantly sent a person flying, and fresh blood splattered in the air. This is the Origin Void stage? Soon, Hong Jianxiu noticed that something was amiss. The strength that Sui displayed completely crushed them. He was walking in the void and did not rely on Yuan Qi to take form. This could only prove that they were facing an Origin Void realm expert. How is this possible? The Heavenly Dipper sect's disciples were shocked to the extreme. Everyone's eyes were filled with horror. The Origin Void stage. A 17-year-old Origin Void stage expert. If the experts in the outside world knew about this, how many people would be shocked to death? It would be difficult to find another youth like this in the entire 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 ocean, let alone the Chaos region. It was too normal for the Holy Son of the Holy Mountain to be defeated by such a talented person. Run, run. At this moment, Hong Jianxiu was the first to react. He knew that the Heavenly Dipper sect's plan this time had completely failed. With their strength, they could not kill Sui from the Bawang sect. Not to mention the Heavenly Dipper sect, even the Ash Cloud Palace, 9 Stars Valley, and Blood Sun sect would not be able to hold this youth back. Run, run, run. Hong Jianxiu could not care about the other disciples. He immediately retreated and wanted to escape. This was too much of a joke. In front of an Origin Void stage expert, he had no other choice but to run for his life. Unless there were a few people around him who were about the same strength as him, that he could barely resist. However, that would only buy him some time. You think you can come and go as you please? I don't have the habit of letting any of my enemies go. Since you want to kill me, then all of you shall leave your lives here. Sui said coldly. Every time he swung his palm, he would hit a Heavenly Dipper sect's disciple's chest. Along with the scene of blood spurting out, the sound of organs exploding from those people's chests could be heard. After each of them was sent flying, they all landed in the distance and could not be more dead. You can't run away. These words came out of Sui's mouth. After getting rid of everyone, the Origin Qi under his feet floated, and he chased after Hong Jianxiu again. Huff! Huff! When Sui's last palm arrived behind Hong Jianxiu with the sound of wind, all the hair on Hong Jianxiu's body stood on end. Before he died, he screamed in pain, Yang Baikuan framed me. His body was sent flying, his chest burst open, and blood splattered everywhere. This young sect master of the Heavenly Dipper sect died tragically at the hands of Su-yi. So, it's related to the Gimdeo sect. Su-yi raised his eyebrows. Sohong Jinshio was related to the Gimdeo sect, which was why he was hostile to him and wanted to kill him the moment he came up. There was no hatred in this world for no reason. This explained everything. Swish, swish, when Su-yi landed on the ground, two figures flashed and arrived in front of him. These two people were none other than Shang Wangshan and Shui Yuechan, whom Su-yi had seen earlier. Su-yi had a good impression of them, much better than Ruan Zhua of the Jade Tripod Alchemy sect. At the very least, he did not see the arrogance that disciples of large sects usually had from these two people. Shang Wangshan saw the situation around him and wanted to say something but hesitated. He and Shui Yuechan had seen the scene of Su-yi killing Hong Jinshio from afar. Do you have an old relationship with Hong Jinshio? Su-yi raised his eyebrows and asked indifferently. Even though Su-yi had a good impression of the two of them, he would not hesitate to kill the two of them if they made a move. Brother Su-yi, you've misunderstood. Shang Wangshan shook his head and said, I have nothing to do with the Heavenly Dipper sect. I just think that you're too impulsive. I'm afraid that you'll cause a huge disaster. Shui Yuechan crossed her jade-like hands in front of her and nodded, not replying. Oh, what kind of disaster? Su-yi was puzzled and could not help but ask Shang Wangshan. Look at those colorful stones. Shang Wangshan pointed. Following his gaze, Su-yi saw some colorful stones scattered not far away. He remembered that there were a few complete colorful stones. However, when he killed Hong Jinshio, his body smashed the stones into pieces. They're just some strange stones. There's nothing special about them. What's wrong? Su-yi was still puzzled. This was not the first time he had seen such stones in the secret territory. He had also noticed them, but did not find anything out of the ordinary. Seeing him like this, Shui Yuechan stepped forward and said in a clear voice, That's a trick set up by the experts of the Alliance. It belongs to the phantom world of the occult sect. It can transmit images of this place to the outside world so that many people can see it. There are many of these things in the secret territory. The purpose is to let the outside world see the opportunities and battles between the younger generation experts. I see. Su-yi nodded. He finally understood. He had heard that the experts of the outside world had a way to see the situation in the secret territory. However, he did not know the details. It turned out that the colorful stones had such an effect. In other words, the outside world probably knows that you have killed the people of the Tiangang sect. Shang Wangshan's tone was solemn as he spoke again. There is the danger of death in the secret realm of ominous spirits. You may die in some strange place, be buried in the stomach of a barbaric beast, or die in a competition between your peers. However, this does not mean that the Tiangang sect will not find trouble with you just because you killed them. Moreover, their young master, Hong Jinshio, died in your hands. Su-yi understood immediately. The trip to the secret territory of Zhaoling was a training ground for all the sects and clans. It was also a great opportunity for them. However, this did not mean that they would watch their disciple die here. Hence, once the secret territory was over, the Tiangang sect would definitely find Su-yi to take revenge for their disciples. Actually, Su-yi understood that this was only because he only had the Overlord's sect behind him. If he had the Azure Cloud Palace, the Nine Stars Valley, or the Blood Sun sect behind him, the Heavenly Dipper sect could only pinch their noses and obediently swallow any bitterness back into their stomachs. Since I've already killed them, let's leave it at that. Su-yi said nonchalantly. Brother Su-yi, you should not have killed them. The Tiangang sect is very difficult to deal with. You should be careful. Seeing Su-yi's fearless expression, Shang Wangshan's heart was filled with admiration. Although he was shocked by Su-yi's courage, he couldn't help but remind Su-yi. Difficult to deal with? Su-yi looked up and smiled. More difficult than the Sacred Mountain? Shang Wangshan and Shui Yuechan were both speechless for a long time. Yes, this young man even dared to offend the Sacred Mountain. Would he be afraid of the Tiangang sect? The sacred mountain was a place that countless people yearned for. Even they, who were far away in the chaos territory, admired it. One had to know that the Dark Cloud Palace, the Nine Stars Valley, and the Blood Sun Sect, these three first-rate forces in the Chaos Zone combined, were still not as powerful as the Sacred Mountain. Compared to it, what was a small Tian Gang sect? This young man is bold and brave. What kind of person is he? At this moment, Shang Wangchen and Shui Yuechan could feel an inexplicable aura coming from the young man in front of them. It was as if he was fearless in this world. The two outstanding disciples of the second-rate sects were shocked, courageous and fearless, pressing forward courageously. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.